the nature of the human race is that the human race has always believed it's known everything. Even the cavemen thought they had it all figured out, and they knew everything there was to know about everything, because that's where mythology came from. It's constructing some kind of context for the unknown.
It's so dense. Every single image has so many things going on.
It's irresistible. He's certainly the coolest, most rock and roll looking god that I have ever seen.
I would have waited an eternity for this.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh.
Welcome
Hello.
and dark greetings
Dark
to
greetings.
Superliterary Encounters number 11. Today we'll be discussing chapters 61 and 62 of Supernatural Encounters, the Trial and Transformation of Arhul Hextrophon. I'm joined here by King Usul, Queen Maxi, Magneto Alex, and Altum the Leaf King. I am your host, Uku Marceluku, the Night Herald, and we are starting book 6 today. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Alex, since we don't see you that often, why don't you give us your general thoughts of these two chapters, if you can remember. Cast your mind back to when you first read it and tell us what you thought.
Good. I honestly, I don't. Everything of book 6, I remember the broad strokes, but not in what order it comes in.
Sure. Let me ask you a question then to kind of point, maybe make the discussion a bit more pointed. But when book 6 kind of starts with more familiar territory, I mean, Al kind of is already hinted at in his name, but we start learning about the Thoyor, which I know a lot of people have been asking about. So when you finally transition from book 5, which is still dealing with the Celestials and the Architects and stuff, now to book 6, how did you feel that you were getting into more familiar Star Wars territory?
I was excited, but I was also kind of like, oh, now it's like stuff I already know, because like everything else was like all new information, But at the same time, it's information I kind of know, but it's expanding upon it, so it's still super interesting to read about, especially the Thoyor, since that was one of the things I really looked forward to with Dawn of the Jedi, and then just never got any interesting bits out of that outside the fact that it brought people somewhere and didn't explain anything beyond that.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that. How about you, King Usul? What do you got for us? Yeah, what did you think of book 6, chapters 61 and 62?
61 was interesting. 62, unfortunately, I don't know as much about the Ewok stuff as you guys, because I have not watched the cartoons, so most of the references went over my head. But 61, we get to see more of our queen, our bug queen, and her brood, starting wars and conflicts, and that's always interesting to see. So, my thoughts. Chapter 61 is cool. 62, I mean, I get everything, but I'm still there.
We'll make you an expert by the end of this stream. How about you, Max? What did you think?
So there's a lot of really cool connections in 61 in particular. But I love the Ewok stuff and the Endor stuff in chapter 62. I've only watched a little bit of the cartoon, so I'm familiar with some things. But I love all the Endor lore and everything, and how it expands upon that really beautiful planet, or moon rather. There's just a lot of really cool stuff here, and obviously we get some stuff with the Thoyor, and then there's some mentions of the Ones, and then we follow mostly like Gorog and like a lot of the a lot of the dealings of the Dark Nest. So it's a lot of really cool stuff. So I really enjoyed them.
Yeah. And how about you, Al? Round us out.
I got a little bit of the Tho lore that I've been looking for, of course, in previous episodes that I've been seeking for. But for me, the highlight was the Ewok stuff. So much so that it got me to overcome my dread of watching another 80s Star Wars cartoon, because I didn't really care for droids. And I started watching the Ewok cartoon, and I actually kind of like it a little bit. At least the first season. The second season's still, I don't know. Anyway, I liked it. I liked a lot of it.
That's great. No, I echo all the sentiments expressed from all of you. I thought 61 and 62 were really great. I'm excited about book 6 and being in more familiar territory. I wanted to shorten the length of these streams. And so we all discussed it and we decided we'd only do a couple chapters. Little did I know that chapter 61 might be the most jam-packed chapter that we've come across so far. But we'll do our best. We have some comments in the chat. Gabe, I think, joined us a little earlier before we even started, and he asked what the event was from the thumbnail. And Al told him it's the first battle of Endor, which we'll be talking about later today. And Gabe expressed his excitement.
Mm-hmm.
He's hoping that Ewok would be in there.
Cool profile picture, Gabe.
Yeah, very cool. The Sun King, the Snow King, the Flower Queen, the Leaf Queen, the Night Spirit were the others, and I took a stab at it. I thought it was Windigon, Moragram, or Morag, as we'll call her, and Tamil Squint, which is a Tuckerization of Matt Wilkins. You might.
Oh, it is. I didn't even get that.
Oh,
yeah,
that's awesome.
that's amazing. He's an Ewok.
Wow.
Yeah.
He must be the happiest person.
Like Yubnub, yeah. So we got Watkins Milt and Tamil Squint.
Wow.
Yeah. And then Brennan, who might be joining us later, says definitely Tamil. Hello there, Anakin Solo.
Back from the dead.
Hello, Darth Sidious. Always good to see you. And Brennan. Hello. Hello. So we'll get right into it. I'm gonna share screen because book 6, which is entitled The Third Shadow, starts with a like a
cool image.
Very cool, image and poem. Can we see my screen? Yeah, we can, but we're gonna zoom in so we can see it better. How do I do this? There we go.
Ooh.
That might be a little too much, actually. There we go. So that image, what am I looking at?
It looks like a starbird.
It does look like a starbird, yeah.
Like the ones that are like inside the suns.
Inside the suns, yeah. Which that idea taken, I think, from, well, probably a couple places, but I remember reading it most recently in the Revenge of the Sith novelization.
Yeah, the sun dragons and stuff.
Yeah. So, Ken, why don't you start us off? Why don't you read us this first paragraph here from the Book of Patterns by the Weavers of the Loom?
It was long after the passing of the second shadow, when dragons ruled the twilight sky and the stars were bright and numerous. The humankind began to thirst again for dominion over nature. Their weapon was industry, and they wielded it with confidence. One by one, the mysteries of light and darkness fell before the engines of progress. All nations came to believe that nothing lay before the power of Arhul.
Thank you. Yeah, and then we have this second part here from the Unknown Annals of the Cosmic Wars by Jedi historian Veste Gestel. Can we get Alex? Do you mind reading that part for us?
Sure. The Infernal Wars, for that is what I call it, had drawn to its final inclusive chapter, leaving everyone the poorer, with many bereaved and maimed, trillions dead, and only one thing triumphant: the infernal powers. As their servants covertly become a privileged class, these infernal ones are only going to grow more powerful.
I gotta say, I love these little chapter intros. I think they really just kind of add color and set the mood.
Mm-hmm.
And so we know that a lot of bad stuff has happened, right? We've had 2 out of the 3 cosmic wars, and it's just going to get worse from here because we're going to the last. What was it called? The Twilight Wars, the last one. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the Twilight Wars.
The Twilight Wars. So when we get right into it, and excuse all my highlighting, but there's just way too much here. There's just way too much. I don't know what to say.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. In the years prior to the construction of the Thoyor, it just gets right into it with the Twilight Wars. Eligast. So Eligast, of course, is the father, I believe, the father of the Ones.
Yes.
Tasked 2 of the elder races to seek out Force-sensitive races for training. So we have the Qua. And I never mentioned this in a previous stream, but these Cab-El spheres almost like remind me of like Dyson spheres in their concept. They're like these giant spheres that just kind of go around the galaxy. But anyways, I don't know. You know what a Dyson sphere is, right, Alex? Because like Star Trek, I think there was an episode with like a Dyson sphere. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a couple other franchises that have used a similar thing. So
Yeah.
When you
That's
when
like
you
a
say
concept in
Dyson,
physics, right? Too.
not the
so.
not
the vacuum
the
cleaners.
vacuum. Yeah, no,
That's
not the vacuum.
literally what I thought. Like, I don't know why you said Dyson. I was like, oh, vacuums.
Yeah, no, it's.
That's
I
exactly
I think it, for what it's worth, I think it's spelled the same, but different.
I
I think it's
concept.
supposed to be like named after
yeah,
conjuring the
science.
image.
Yeah,
And they do have spherical things on the vacuum cleaners.
Yeah.
that is true. That is true. I own a Dyson, and now every time I use it, I'm going to be thinking of Dyson spheres.
There you go.
So we learned that Typhon is I guess the planet that's selected for the Tho-Yor project, and essentially what they're going to be doing is, as we know from Dawn of the Jedi, is collecting force sensitive races around the galaxy and bringing them together on Typhon. And we there's 9 Tho-Yors that are built, and we learned that there's they're going to be targeting the Cathar, or I guess these are the planet names, but Cathar, Kashyyyk, Dathomir, Ryloth, Ando Prime, Crevasse, Keltinia, and Manon.
We only see a few of those in comics, though. We see I know we see Cathar, Kashyyyk, Dathomir, and Ryloth and Ando Prime, but I don't think we see the other ones that I know of.
Is Crevasse where
Kravaki
live? Do you remember? Okay, yeah,
I think so.
Yeah.
And the Manon, of course, from KOTOR.
I remember seeing Manon for sure.
Wait,
I know.
yeah. Isn't that where the cell
hate
cat
Manon.
from, or is that
Yes.
somewhere
It's
else?
a cell
No,
cat.
the cell cat.
Right on the head.
Yeah,
I don't know if
too.
you see the planet in the comics, but you do see a Selkath.
Yeah.
You see them in the water. I don't know if it's if
Yeah.
it is specifically, but you do see them. So I was like, oh my god,
I just
you guys
remember,
again?
the Night Sisters and or the Dathomiri people there. I remember seeing them and everything, the Twi'leks and everything.
Yeah.
And
then so we finally have a year here, 37,000 BBY, which is of course around the time that the Tho-Yor start collecting. That doesn't mean that we're now in 37,000 BBY. I just want to point that out from a narrative perspective. It's just kind of jumping forward to kind of anchor us in time. But it's telling us that around the time of the Tho-Yor, only a remnant of the elder races had managed to hold on to their innate glory. Right? We talked about last time how the Broto-Asogians were changed by their scuffles with the ancient ones. And so, it's I think that the elder races, the resolute that have actually held the faith at this point, if they haven't already been taken to the unseen realms, there's not really many of them remaining in the galaxy, right? Most had diminished, becoming a shadow of their former selves, while the rest of the multifarious races, oblivious to all that had transpired in ages past, multiplied in ignorance, right? This is really, I hate to say dark ages, because dark ages, I think is a term that historians use because they're unable to explain vast swaths of time, but really does seem like a dark age in the sense that it's ignorance is filling the galaxy, right? They're forgetting about the Celestials.
When I read this part, I think I remember it was just explicitly like, this is where I guess the spiritual stuff kind of goes away from the average person, like, because back when we were reading like the book 3 and book 4, you had people like worshiping Titlani and other people, but like almost everyone by 37,000 BBY just doesn't really believe that any of that's true. Like, you still got religion and all that, but like the actual truth is kind of been forgotten by this time.
Yeah, obfuscated.
To kind of go off the idea of a dark age, this would be like if we consider the Jedi like the Renaissance. That kind of does flow. We went from like the Roman period to dark ages to our Jedi Renaissance,
right?
Here in like 4,000, 5,000 years,
right? It's just so interesting to me that the Sith, at least as a race, and maybe even as a creed to a large extent, predate the Jedi.
Yeah.
Right.
Before, it's always been like the like common like knowledge that like the Jedi were always there. They're always like they're the ancient ones, and that the Sith were like a splinter cell of them. Which, I mean, in a way, it is still true, because the Sith as we know them, like split off from the Jedi and everything. But like the Sith as a whole,
that's what
like,
we're told too.
Yeah, like their society and their species and everything, they existed long before the Jedi, which is really cool because, like, I don't know, it's just like common history is negated here, and we learn what is actually.
It's so nice to exist in a time before Jedi, because this was the thing. This is the thing that soured me on Dawn of the Jedi. This is not the Dawn of the Jedi. These people are like up and running. They got like a whole system.
Yeah,
I want to see the first Jedi. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, who was the first one?
Who was the Prime Jedi, as they call him in the them or her in the Disney canon?
Yeah,
right?
And I know in the new canon, this history, this common history that we know it as in Skyriver, is the case in new canon. Like, they're not like the Jedi did come first, and the Sith are just a splinter cell off. They weren't anything before the Jedi created them, essentially.
Right.
Yeah. So
Darth Sidious in the comments might be able to correct me, but I think in Knights of the Old Republic, the first game, it's heavily implied that Ajunta Pall was the first Sith, like, ever, and that was sort of what we were to assume.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is way better. Is way more interesting.
Well, I know
I would think no. So go.
I was gonna say I've spoken to Darth Sidious about this numerous times, but they changed the timeline of the exiles. Right? We had I think they shortened it to 8,000, or yeah, no, it was like 7,000 BBY. But before that, I think we had kind of associated that first schism with the Jedi exiles, but that wasn't to be the case, right? That ended up becoming the second schism.
Yeah.
And the first schism happened in and around the times of like 25,000 BBY, like early.
The first one.
Good to see you, my friend. Sorry.
Hi, Nazo. The first one was Zendor and the Legions of Leto, and then the second one was the Exiles.
I think how it is more than Ajunta Pall in the way the religion of the Sith and how we see it in most of the EU started more with him, and how that's more of the thing. Because
here's your answer.
That's exactly what I was.
I feel like when we got to when Ajunta Pall and the Exiles got there, I feel like that's when like the Sith started, like that was like their kind of renaissance. That's like the start, and then like obviously they get to Marco Ragnos's era, and then they have the Golden Age and everything, and they're all chilling up in the
Stygian caldera.
Yeah, so
that's the true Sith, not the true Sith as in the true Sith, but that's like the Sith that we know.
Yeah, but like I feel like the Sith as like they are most known, and like the Sith as we know it, and that we obviously started with the Ajunta Pall, because like before, and as you said, like the culture and like the religion of it, and that whole like cult, I guess you could say, was basically, I'd say, created when Ajunta Pall kind of went there. But like the Sith as a whole, their society and their species and everything still existed before, obviously. So interesting conversations about the Sith.
What's also interesting to me, though, is that basically the ones are responsible for the creation of the Jedi Order.
Yeah. And the Thoyor itself.
Yeah, well, the Thoyor itself, but also in the sense that, I mean, I'm going to share a screen again, but we see that they create essentially the precursor to the Jedi Code, right?
Right. I love this part. I think I wrote it down word for word in my thoughts video, and I said it out loud because I thought it was awesome.
That's great news. Nazo, your dad is awesome, man. I really enjoyed meeting him at Legends Con. What a great guy. Yeah, I'm gonna blow it up just a bit more, just because it's a little small on the screen. But Alex, do you want to actually read that for us? The three pillars.
I'd be honored to.
Yeah. Okay.
The three pillars. We have emotion, yet we are at peace. We overcome ignorance with knowledge. When passion grips, we grasp serenity. When chaos strikes, harmony we increase. Crude matter we are. Death does abolish, but the force retains our identity. Servants of others, not rulers. Guardians of life in all its forms. Defenders against evil. This is our sacred promise. Three pillars guide our worldview and mission. The first is the force living and binding. Our second is that of knowledge. The third is orderly self-discipline. Our path through these is long and winding, yet we have been blessed, and this is our pledge, to obey the force's will and reflect goodness teachings.
Yeah. So what's interesting about this, and I was reading it as well in the end notes, is that it's more of a balance. If you think about it, it doesn't really, the Jedi Code as it is in the prequel era kind of negates, there is no emotion, there is peace, there is no ignorance, there is knowledge, right?
So Jedi and Sith, they both pervert this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because this acknowledges that, yes, there is emotion and there is ignorance, but in order to have balance, you need peace with emotion. You need knowledge with ignorance. It balances one another out, right? So it's not a negation. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Al.
Oh, no, if you think back to Dawn of the Jedi, that's the whole point of the Jedi, is they're trying to maintain balance. You remember, I think it's in the comics, where you have to go to one planet or the other if you're out of balance. If you have to go to Bogle.
But even by then, they have a sort of code which is different from the Jedi Code, but it's also different from this. So even by then, it's been corrupted to be different.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like this is more in line, like with the Jedi we see of Luke's day. They're a little more along these lines than like other like Jedi like periods of time.
Hello, welcome.
That's what I would say. I would say these tenets would be like, because like they don't shun things like emotions or anything like that. So
yeah,
it's probably not a good idea to shun emotions. That usually makes like a weird serial killer who kills children because it makes you weird.
Jeez, that went dark really quickly.
Blame George. It's his fault.
Yeah, fair enough. So in the next part, though, we get into some more familiar territory with the deceit of the Rakata. Right, we learn that the Rakata claim that they've been reformed, that they're good now. We get, Qua. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the Qua to come and teach them force techniques, essentially.
I think you get like a panel of flashback to this in the comic Dawn of the Jedi comics. I'm pretty sure you get like a glimpse of the Qua.
Hello, Dr. Crater. We have an esteemed editor with us, and the code became contracted over time, was robbed of its original meaning. The proof is of the pudding is in the eating became the proof is in the pudding. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think generally, I mean, I'm not an etymologist, but language tends to over time just devolve or just deteriorate into the lowest common denominator, right? So,
I mean, look at all the weird slang we have like today,
Right. Yeah.
Like Riz.
Like Riz.
Yeah.
I was about to say Riz.
Like Riz.
First one. Riz.
Yeah. That was perfectly timed entirely by accident.
Good. We're on like a force like battle meld right now.
I was God, she's in my mind. I was gonna say battle meld.
I'm telling you, it's a freaking battle meld.
So yeah, I mean sorry, I'm still thinking about the battle meld now.
You're using battle meditation.
You know what picture
We're
comes to
in tune with
mind?
the Force because we read the pillars.
Every time I think of the battle meld, I think of that one picture. I think it's in either in the New Essential Chronology or in the Jedi versus Sith, the Essential Guide to the Force. It's a picture of Jason, Jaina, and Anakin.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
and they're all in a battle meld.
Yeah.
That's what I think of. But yeah, the Rakata try and fool the Qua into thinking that they're reformed now, and the Qua go to Lehan, which is, I believe, their original planet, the Rakata.
Yep.
They detected no shadow upon their guides and deemed the world's taint the expected lingering remnants of old evil, and so began to impart to them education and instruction. But of course, as we know, the Rakatan culture is a culture steeped in domination, cruelty, and barbarism, as we're told, and that hasn't really changed.
The Rakata suck.
Yeah, they're just bad guys. I want a story.
There are some good ones.
Are there? Okay.
Yeah, in KOTOR.
Just remember, they are descendants of Gungans, so that in and of itself is an L on their part.
I love
dunking on.
No, Gungans are great, but
I personally love Gungans myself, but
but they
much rather have Gungans
big
than
bad people.
Lisa, what I do to you?
Literally Gungan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we're told that on page 618 that the Rakatan ruse lasted long enough for them to have learned crucial new technologies and ways in which to harness the Force, which we know from Dawn of the Jedi and also KOTOR that they will eventually turn to, and SWOTOR, I suppose, they will eventually turn those to nefarious means.
I really like that detail. My one friend always asks. His question to me is, "Will they make it to space?" Like the Selegians, he's like, "They're not making it to space." The Rakata, they're not making it to space. Klingons, not making it to space. Here, they made it to space by stealing. They made it to
stealing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suspect they would have anyways, but yeah, I mean, in this day and age, there's still those hypergates, right? The infinity gates.
I think there's a few.
So the Qua find out about this, and they notify the remnant of the Elder races to begin the wholesale destruction of infinity gates throughout the galaxy. The star temples had been far fewer in number than the hypergates, but still stood on hostile worlds guarded by powerful sentinels. God, that is a story in and of itself. I think there's some art about the Qua and the Rakata. I'm gonna see if I can find it.
Yeah. And there's like a big like hypergate in the background, or like
yeah,
I think that's from the first issue of Dawn of the Jedi. I remember seeing that so many times, or it might be from like a guidebook or something.
And
I remember seeing.
I think it's from Dawn of the Jedi. I'm gonna throw it up. I got it.
Let's see.
I love this picture, by the way.
There it is.
That's definitely Jan.
Yeah, but you see that Qua over there, and then you see the Rakata just holding up his force saber, and then you see the gate in the background.
That's awesome,
right? Like
I should reread
it just builds off of. Oh, look who we have! Welcome, hello.
Hey,
there.
oh wow, Brennan,
full cast.
Oh,
let's go.
Brennan, I can't even see his. Oh, it's this Quinlan Voss. I was like, what's his subtitle? But I mean, yeah, I was just gonna say like real quickly that I love how the Infinity Gate stuff already existed. Joe just took it and made it make sense and fit with Star Wars.
Yes.
Awesome.
Another thing I love about, I was gonna say this book, but like the entire novel is just like the fact that all of this could easily be a whole bunch of novels in of itself, like expanded upon by different writers if they really wanted to. We have so much, like this Rakatan part is like it's gone over, but not in like super in-depth detail. So if somebody wanted to take that and write a whole story around that, they could. So I love that he's opened up so many possibilities.
Multimedia project.
Absolutely.
Right.
Oh, here we got Dawn of the Jedi, Prisoner of Bogan Forest, where we learn the Quad's history with the Rakata. Yeah, there you go. Sorry.
It also says it's like they guarded the gates and everything with giant races like Zillo beasts. And it says Woofa worms, Rancors, giant Greelers, as well as the engines of defense. I love the Zillo beast stuff because, like, you know, say what you want about like TCW, but it's a big monster, and I love those guys. It's like Godzilla. It's dope.
It is Godzilla. Actually, the Zillo beast episodes were, because it comes back in TCW too.
Yeah,
there's like a return of the Zillo beast, were ones that I actually didn't mind all that much.
I didn't either, but then it's like no one ever mentions that there's a big giant monster just rolling around Coruscant ever, and it's like,
hey, it's big.
Not even in TCW.
I mean, yeah, it's big.
Outside those two episodes.
I mean, they never bring up like the mount, like the what is it, the ski slopes or whatever. It's like there are like things that they're
actually, speaking of the ski slopes. So I started reading Young Jedi Knights: The Lost Ones today.
Ooh.
And I know, right, Max? Finally, after like a year. And like one of the chapters is the Solo family, and they're all in this snowy area of Coruscant where they're just skiing and like having snowball fights. And
I live for those moments.
Yeah, it was great. It was very wholesome in a way that I'm just like now having read everything else, like Legacy of the Force, and I was
because you read Legacy of the Force with those little comments by Jason in every chapter.
You know that meme of like the Incredibles. It's like whatever the father's name is for Incredible, where he just turns dark in the other panel. That was like me reading this after Legacy of the Force.
One of my favorite scenes in that book is when they bring Tenel Ka to Coruscant, and like Leia shows her to her room, and this beautiful room, and there's a mattress, a bed, and Tenel Ka just grabs the mattress and throws it on the floor, and she's like, "Now it's good."
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah,
what a great character.
She's so awesome.
I love Tenel Ka.
So then we have a part on page 618 at the end of this section 1. It says, although the Rakata were thwarted, they were far from beaten, devoting all their resources and knowledge towards new dark side imbue technologies. They prepared for their reemergence as the new power in the galaxy, at which time they would call themselves the Builders, appropriating the name some gave to the Celestials, for they deemed themselves as powerful and wise as the architects of old. So there's a lot of hubris there with the Rakata, and we know that they're going to come back in Dawn of the Jedi. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
No, you can see the seeds of how do they phrase it in KOTOR? The Force refuses to touch them or whatever. I forget exactly how they phrase it, but like the Force will not touch the Rakata. They're so evil. Yeah. They're so damaged.
Yeah, they it's never fully explained. It's still a mystery because Dawn of the Jedi didn't even really get to explain it. But KOTOR mentions when Revan goes to the original homeworld that they had the Force and now they can never have it again. Yeah. And it's never fully expressed how that happened. I imagine it's something similar to what happened in Eula Quadroma, but it's never explicitly stated what happened. We don't know if it was some sort of celestial being that did this to them forever, or if it was an individual, or if it was just themselves over time. We just don't know. We don't have enough info.
We just know they lost it. Much like what happened to the Vong. It sounds very similar to them.
Similar, but different.
There was some. I forget. There was like some like piece of nuance that I used to remember, and now I don't remember. So
it might come back to you later on. In which case, pipe up.
I hope so.
Okay, so Darth Sidious has the answer down at the bottom. It says, what we're told in KOTOR is that the Rakata ultimately lost their Force sensitivity. I suspect that Starforge eats the midichlorians of those who use it. That's just his suspicion. We don't actually have an answer.
I know Darth Sidious is our resident Sith scholar, though.
Yeah, that's fair.
So.
Fitting.
But the Rakata aren't Sith, so.
But he's our resident Force scholar as well. So in section 2, it's called the Verdigris of Decadence. We learn that, again, as we talked about, Celestials seem far away or vanished like the lost beauty of long-dead kings in the unreachable mortuary of myth. I love that. And not a few began to wonder if they ever existed at all. So, again, we're dealing with more recent times where people have lost the faith, where all these grand demigods of the past seem to be story tales, right?
Yeah,
I don't believe it.
And this, later on, like later in the timeline, you never hear Telotny or any of like that. You might hear like Onrai, but like that's kind of about it. And then there's very like little like breadcrumbs like left around from this era,
This is Darth Sidious is explaining here why he thinks that they eat midichlorians, the Starforge.
But is that the Starforge itself, or is that something like the ones who make the Starforge do that?
It's starting to come back
technology to do that.
I think it's been a few months since I played Knights of the Old Republic, and of course my memory is soup. So, but I think the elders kind of described their loss of the Force as like it started like a numbness, like they started becoming numb to the Force.
I think so.
So that kind of lines up with what Darth Sidious is saying, where it just got over time they just fed so much of their power into the Starforge that they started to lose it. I think
that's wild. Absolutely devastating. Lose your connection with the Force, right? We saw what it did to Ulick in Redemption. It made him like a shell of a man.
Damn.
I don't know if they're like civilization. I don't think it's like the Vong where they're outside of it. I think it's just that none of them are going to be able to be Force sensitive anymore. They're all going to be like normal people,
normies.
Solo.
I think it was like in Plagueis where the Force kind of like recoils from Plagueis and from Sidious and creates Anakin. I think it was sort of like that, where it sort of recoiled from the Rakata because they were so evil.
Yeah, like out of disgust,
Yeah,
because that's essentially what Plagueis was doing. Is Plagueis was just like trying to basically break the unnatural laws of life.
Yeah,
and I could see that.
So we have in page 618, which is just loaded this page with just so many good things. But Ken, I don't know if you're on page 618, but can you read us that one paragraph that says there were yet wrestlings?
Sure.
Because this explains this paragraph, what happens in other parts of the galaxy, right? As a result of this verdigris of decadence.
There were yet rustlings in the desolate places of the expanse, as incalcitrant and aggressive cultures fell into economic and social decline. Not a few were reduced to tribalism, while still others took a strictly insular policy or ended up being ruled by belligerent kings and tyrannical queens. And always there were the fell races begotten in the lost depths of Illithurion, seducelessly swelling into vast nations that might one day rise up against their galactic neighbors.
So there you go. I mean, pretty grim what's happening in the galaxy. And then at the bottom of page 16, leading into page 619, we find out that Gorog, as she's known, is really the only. I mean, Ngal is still around, but he's trapped. Yeah. So she's really the power in the galaxy right now to a large extent, and she plans to exploit that to its fullest extent. Right, we're told that the Myrmidon of Gorgrat multiplied in those days, the cheering, clicking Nitocris, and other things that moved in the shadow. The great worms of El Shaddam nested and grew, and Sith were not idle, and Ngal would soon be released from long years of imprisonment. This would come with the fall of the Vis Empire and the seed that had been planted long before by another. And we learn about the Vis and the Vis Empire. The Vis are this proud and bellicose reptilian race that rose to prominence years after their exile from Kularin. That's on page 619. And we learn a bit about their lore. This part kind of a bit flew over my head. I reread it today because I was like, oh, this is really interesting. I wonder what the Vis Empire is from. I'm wondering what other people thought about it.
I'll just say that it also went over my head, so you're not alone in that camp.
It might be from. So I'm looking at it on Wikipedia right now. It's the Unknown Regions source book and the complete Star Wars encyclopedia. They first appeared in a book series, Alien Chronicles. Okay, Alien Chronicles, I think, is what eventually Alien Exodus became, but it was made. It was written by a different author, right? Deborah Chester. And so I think this whole Vis Empire part is probably just somewhat of a retelling of those Alien Chronicles books, which I haven't yet read. But we essentially find out that the Vis, they're called the there's a name for them, I believe, right? They're called the Tarasin, generally a peaceful people, but then these Korkadine show up, sent to conquer their world, and the Sobali were attacked and forced to mate with them. But they eventually drove them off, and their offspring were known as the Kalasin. The Vis declared the Kalasin little more than non-sapient beasts and began hunting them for their skins and medicinal purposes, though they never ate their meat. That's what we're told on page 619. Yeah, I know, pretty grim, right? And we're also told that the Vis were eventually driven off-world.
Yeah, get out of here.
This Tarasin culture was forever changed, separating into united equal clans. The Urstat clan was led by a mother, the spiritual leader-in-chief, and the Urstat Kess was led by the second eldest female, and the Kalasin were then declared a protected people instead of being hunted. Defying the prohibition of the Celestials against entering the forbidden zones of the Galactic West, that being the unknown regions, as we know, the Vis settled on an uninhabited world they called Visimel. And so that's where they settled. And they formed an empire. It became formidable in the millennia ahead as they made contacts with nearby inhabited worlds, with new jump gates re-engineered by the Fivians and the Zreli from lost technology of older and more advanced cultures. The Vis could more easily govern the neighboring worlds of Gaza. Okay, not the same thing, but it's spelled Gaza. Sargus 3, Minchapop, Rantoon, Lapul, Veltai, Rentar, Fariance, and Rogus 4. I've never heard of any of these planets before.
It also says that like other species had basically given up on like the creed of the Celestials, and they thought it was like a ruse to preserve the best worlds for themselves, as it says. And it says some reason that the vast area would be safest place to hide in the event of war. So like a lot of species just kind of went off to the unknown
regions. Yeah.
And
we're told that the Vis actually end up enslaving a few of them, right?
Of course they do.
The Arun race, the Kelth cannons. Yeah, the Mile academics. Well, don't worry, because they get theirs.
Yes, they do.
says the Vis Empire lasted 2,500 years until 3 events in succession brought them down. It began with their slide into decadence, indifference, and decay.
Oof.
As all great empires eventually decline due to decadence, indifference, and decay.
Yeah.
The Eye of Clarity comes back. It says it was during this period of discovery that Empress also acquired what Israel considered a worthless trinket. Only much later did she find out it was the Eye of Clarity. Empress made several surprising discoveries. The Vis Empire was in decline. Her early revolutionary work had not been in vain because she, I think, wanted to destroy or at least drive off the Vis. And the Eye of Clarity was no mere trinket. With the aid and sacrifices of many, the Arhul, that's one of the enslaved races, and her allies led all of the Abiru, the enslaved races as they're collectively known, to a new and unspoiled paradise on Rue 113, where their peoples yet live and thrive. I love that, like something like that, where their peoples yet live and thrive, because it just adds such a mythological aspect to these stories, right?
Yeah, it's a little more hopeful that they actually survived.
So it was Nal, as you like to say, Max, that was responsible for the destruction of the Vis.
Mongo.
It sounds. I can't say Mungo without like like laughing. It's just funny. Yeah. So it's just Nal to me. That's how I've always like heard like YouTubers say it. So
no, you're right. I'm just
latched on.
Stubborn.
Nah, it's just Nal to me.
To be fair, Nal is also funny.
It is, but I mean, Mungo, like Mungo.
Mungo's way funny.
It sounds funny.
Mungo. I'm speaking of Mungo. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share the book again so that we can take a look at it.
Mungo.
But the part we're going to take a look at is not the highlighted part. It's actually the part right above it. This paragraph right here. The same benighted minds that experimented on Empress went on to create a sentient pathogen, pursuing it like men possessed of a singular goal that nothing but success could slake. Though they were unaware of it and would not believe it if they'd been told, they forged in this monstrous pathogen an opening for Mungo to come through.
Oh no! You don't want to summon this guy.
We're told that this happened before with the Tlung. They thought would protect them, but even eating the crust of the planet, Mungo destroyed their planet. And contacting their parent race did no good either, for by the time they arrived to help, the cancer god, as he's known, had devoured itself along with the entire planet. This was the catalyst for their decision to forever ban technology, which they enacted after. And then now again, a tiny part of Mungal would be transported across the stars to feed without measure. The coming of the devourer would see the end of the Vis race.
Oh, man.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
So, dude, I need a horror novel with this. You could do
something.
Not even him as an entity, just like a part of him.
Just read The Color Out of Space by H.P. Lovecraft. Isn't that Mongo?
He comes from doesn't he come from the
supposed to be black,
wild
right?
space outer region source?
I thought he was gray.
Gray. You're right. He's gray.
Like a gray, like ooze.
Yeah.
He comes from one of those.
Mongo comes. I don't know if I know he's mentioned in the Unknown Region source book for sure, but I don't know if that's his first appearance.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I know that source book. Don't go.
No, I'm pretty sure that you can find out like his stats or whatever. So if you want to do, an RPG where you get trapped by him, I'll run that.
That sounds awesome. But
he's first mentioned in the Unknown Region source book. I would love to own that source book, but it costs an arm and a leg.
Yeah, all those Wizards of the Coast books are just ridiculous.
Yeah, I paid like $200 for the KOTOR one, and I don't regret it because it's amazing and there's so much good stuff in it. I think Abel Pena co-wrote it, but
the only one I got is the New Jedi Order one. That's the only one I have.
I want all. I if I had any amount of money, those and the West End Games books, I would just be I would be devouring them.
Yeah, like I have a few more of the West End Games books. Actually, shout out to whoever sold me all 14 adventure journals, because that is the crown jewel of my collection currently. Besides,
I need those.
I have the Hungarian Han Solo novels, and then the adventure journals are my crown jewels. So
this is my crown jewel here.
Well, yeah, well, of course, yeah.
This is my baby.
That's why we're here. That's why I'm here.
That's why I'm here.
Exactly.
My crown jewel.
Okay, so before you get back on topic, okay. So Christopher Nelson, he has a Facebook thing where he is selling a bunch of his stuff for some reason, Anyway, so I got the Queen's Amulet for $20.
Oh, I remember you
This is
talking about that. You were so excited.
That's so awesome.
I was
That's
so
very
happy.
cute.
It's a children's book, and I'm so happy.
It's
about
pretty
it.
rare, the Queen's Amulet, actually. So good for
And
you.
I got it for 20.
Wow,
Hey, that's not
good.
bad.
It was a steal.
I think Chris would be happy just to see that that cherubic smile on your face.
That's awesome. I'm so happy. I was gonna leave for work, and I saw a box at my doorstep, so I went out and I saw it said Christopher Nelson on it. I was like, oh, let's go! And I immediately opened it before I went to work, and I was like, it's here. Anyway, that's all. That's my derailment.
No, hey, Chris Nelson brings a smile to my face too every time.
Every time I look at him, you know,
right?
that lion's mane.
Chicken soup for my Star Wars soul.
Yeah. You have a bad day, just watch a Chris Nelson video.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it is. He's gonna maybe one day hear about this and be like, "You guys are weird." Back on track on page 622, we find out that Gorog has created a new architect, as he's called, cybernetic near impervious shell. He was fashioned in artificial intelligence. It says with the aid of Cadavra, that being the Shadow Stone, right? I believe Cadavra is the Shadow Stone, the crystal rider that became Shadow Stone, and other select allies in the aftermath of Hidden Pitham's sacrifice, as we talked about a couple streams ago, when Hidden Pitham ablated himself, sacrificed himself. He created droid sentience in the galaxy, essentially, right? Created a framework for it.
Chad.
Yeah, Hidden Pitham. In the end, he was found Pitham.
He was found, but
not very hidden.
Hidden Pitham found Chad.
Yeah. Yes.
And so, what does Gorog do with her cybernetic son? She sends him to the event horizon that would take him to the Earth worlds to find one suitable for invasion. So now, because the Celestials are largely out of the picture, and because Typhagem is dead, spoilers, as we talked about last time, Gorog decides that she is primed now to take over, right? And so she creates the architect with the purpose of taking one of these Earth worlds, because as we find out, like you take an Earth world, then you're eligible to sit on one of the 9 thrones of Illuthurion or something like that. But there's obvious advantages for her spreading her influence as far as possible throughout the galaxy. I remember we had a discussion about this behind the scenes. I was like, why does Gorog want to take over everything now? It's like, I don't know. I mean, she was never really good. She was Tlatani's most loyal general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She
but
died
at the
at
same
the
time,
though.
Yeah. At the same
for a
time, like you used to
while-
say, whether or not she would have turned on her eventually, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if she
for a while,
didn't,
like
there's nothing for no, you're good. I was just saying, like, even if she would never betray Lana, it really doesn't matter because she's gone now, and it's just her. So she's free to do whatever she pleases.
yeah.
Exactly. There's
And
a big
for
power
while,
back.
yeah, for a while, like Gorog was like just kind of the person you got information from, you know, like she had her web everywhere, but like now she's like bided her time. She's like, you know, kind of hid in the shadows a little bit and just been the informant and like sent her minions to do her bidding. And now she has no competition because everyone else killed themselves off or just died or got themselves locked up. So now she's like, oh well, now I got the easy road to victory. So
I think it's also self-preservation. She sees Typhagem and all the architects gone. She's like, well, if I don't work fast, they're gonna get me next. So
yeah,
That's true. Yeah. I
Now,
mean,
that's also a possible motivation.
yeah, and like Horlus is like the guy everyone's scared of. So it's like you don't want to bring down his wrath.
yeah.
Who
Because he's
knew?
an
He
boss.
disappeared. He disappeared forever, and then he just comes back and whoops so much ass.
I
You
know.
know?
he just
Yeah.
obliterates everyone. He
I know.
leaves, comes back, obliterates everyone, leaves again.
Leaves.
And then
stop.
remember what he did to one of Gorog's daughters in the last stream? Shrunk her and threw her to pats.
Oh,
to get
yeah.
stepped on.
He's like Goku. He just, comes when you need him. And
Then he'd have to be eating a bunch in between stuff.
that's true.
Horlus would be Goku. Don't at me.
So the architect goes to this is a little small, but he goes to Eartha, that Earth world, right? As we know, Eartha is of course the Earth world that Arhul Hextrophon visits with Q9. I was going to say visited with Q9 when he went to Illithurion.
Mm-hmm.
And we find out a little later how Eartha ends up in Illithurion, because of course it's originally in Sky River, not in the not in other space. But we're told about Eartha, more than even the ever-changing and unstable authority figures they adored, it was technology that had become humanity's idol and wealth, their chief god. These three things were what they trusted to save them. And then construction on the containment of the massive cities beneath a cluster of geodesic domes was completed by the late 23rd century New Earth. Yeah, NE is New Earth, I believe. One was established on a space colony. 2 others were built near some of Eartha's ruined cities. So even at this point, there's ruined cities on Eartha. Things are not going well. Intelligent computers backed by a gerontocracy were put in charge of the city of domes in order to run all aspects of life, including reproduction. What is a gerontocracy? Is that like
that's
the older you are, the maybe?
Yep, that's exactly what it is.
Autocracy. I'm gonna look it up.
That's very
states governed by old people. Okay.
Yeah. No, that's horrible.
So
that's
the
like,
United States of America. Oh, was that political?
All right. Everybody get in the car. We're going to Canada.
Not wrong.
I'm kidding. It's a lot of places in the world, actually.
Most places, I think, are mostly ruled by old people. I guess it also depends what you mean by old.
That's right. I don't want to.
Some people call 30-year-olds old, and I don't think they're old. So,
speaking of old souls.
Oh,
hey!
Let's go.
It's Quinlan Voss himself.
How's it going?
The man, myth, the legend himself.
Good now that you're here. Oh, I'm kidding. It was good before. I'm just kidding, guys.
The famous EU team.
The usurper of the EU teen title.
Yeah.
I said the other day I was the Star Wars EU team. He's the Star Wars EU lad.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
De-aged myself.
I brought this up in the chat, and I couldn't find a summary. I forgot to look for a summary, but this reminds me a lot of the book The Giver by Lois Lowry. I had to read this in 8th grade, so
yes, I told you to bring this up.
Yes, yeah. I could not find. I got the audiobook on Libby earlier, but I couldn't get to the part where they talk about the world building. So
that's okay. I forgive you.
I vaguely, but a lot of it's similar. Post-apocalypse, they control reproduction, and they kill you at a given age.
We're gonna talk about that because we're on page 623, my friend. Because I'm gonna throw it up there because that whole they kill you at a given age. That might be a reference to The Giver, but it's also a reference to Logan's Run, right? Ooh. This concept of renewal.
I think that
Logan's Run is a movie that I want to say came out in 76. I'm not sure if that's actually true. Logan's Run.
It is.
That was just a guess. But it takes place in the year. Oh, it did come out June 23rd, 1976. Look at that. It takes place in the 2200s, 2276. 2274. And essentially, the concept is once you turn 30, you are renewed. But it's essentially it's a code word for being killed. And there are these police officers essentially called God, what are they called? I forget what they're called.
Sandmen.
Are they called Sandmen?
Yep.
That's so cool. I didn't realize that. Sandmen. That's so cool. And the runners are people who try to escape renewal, which is the process in which they're killed. And so there's like the famous quote, "Run, runner," as Logan ends up. They have these little diodes, these lights on their palms that start flashing when it's time for their renewal. So when they turn 30, and Logan ends up running away. He is one of the Sandmen, but he ends up running away and discovering that, hey, old people exist outside of these domes. So that I think was a pretty cool reference that I caught, and I think I messaged all of you immediately. I said I thought I was the only person who remembered Logan's Run.
I need to watch that.
Never put it past Joe Bongiorno.
The more I read the Wikipedia synopsis, the more I'm thinking this is definitely a reference to Logan's Run, not The Giver. However, I now think that The Giver is a giant reference to Logan's Run. So
it's very possible. Alex, I'm wondering if you got this reference. I might be crazy, but is this a reference to a popular video game series?
Where are we looking at?
The highlighted part. Sorry. Over the course of Earth's next 2 centuries, the totalitarian EarthGov took over, which saw the return of the monoliths, now in a double helix shape. To me, that sounds like Dead Space.
It does.
Oh, you're so right with the monolith. The marker, yeah.
Yep.
That could be. That could be. It would be a cool reference because that's one of the scariest games I've ever played. Or I shouldn't say I'm scared. It's really hard for me to get scared now because I've played a lot of horror games. I've watched a lot of horror films. But the thing I noticed when I was playing, because I never played it growing up, so I bought it like a year ago for $4.99, the original version, not the remake. And I just noticed I was like 2 hours into the game. Nothing had like really happened yet. It killed a few things, you know. But when I went to turn off the game, I put my shoulders down because my shoulders were like this that entire time. Because even though I wasn't in danger every 2 seconds, I constantly felt like I could be. So I always felt tension while I was playing the game.
Well, I'm going to show you something, and I'm now near certain that this is a reference to Dead Space because it's a little small. But do you see this is art from Dead Space? And do you see that double helix?
Oh yeah,
right.
Right,
and then here's another picture from Dead Space. Right here. Double helix, right? Black monolith.
Yep.
So I'm fairly certain that's a reference to Dead Space. There was also a third reference that I caught. I think it was on either 623 or 624.
Dead Space also has a very small EU.
Also, I thought this was pretty funny. It does have actually a great EU, but the architect hadn't taken into account the sociopathic nature of human corporations. It's quite true. But this part, did you the last paragraph on page 623? Did you get the reference here?
Terminator?
No.
I definitely didn't get it.
Here, I'll scroll down to 624, and you might
I got really hopeful for like 2 seconds when I read it the first time, and then I was like, oh no, this is not.
It's a reference to what I believe the Matrix.
That makes sense.
Simulation allowed them to harvest their energy to grow larger robot citizenry. So it might have remained had not unseen players enter the game. Rogue agents. Unruly offspring, and that being the robot programs that rebelled, and rival powers roaming as ghosts in the machine to challenge his dominion, or who felt something for the Besotted race. The Matrix is one of my favorite films ever, being a huge cyberpunk fan as I am.
Matrix is really good.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
Yeah, so the Matrix.
I've seen the Matrix, and that went right over my head. I wasn't even thinking of that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That's why you have.
I don't remember what I thought at the time, but yeah, you always help.
Yeah, I love the Matrix. I was very happy to read that. I was like, that's cool because like Earth and I've been telling people who are interested in supernatural encounters, they're like, but I hear there's references to all these other sci-fi properties out there. I'm like, there are, but they're all, if you read it, they're all really tied to Earth worlds.
Yeah,
because the idea is that all these other sci-fi properties play out in these Earth worlds.
Yeah, and it's not even necessarily the property, like the movie or the franchise beat for beat. More of the time it seems like it's more like the general idea happened, but not necessarily the entire structure or whatever it's referencing.
Right, and that it's not gonna. Sorry, go ahead, Brennan.
I was gonna say it's like the broad strokes of the storyline, not necessarily the movie canonically takes place.
Yeah.
It's an allusion, if you will.
Yeah.
So as we know, Revan reincarnates several times in the Star Wars galaxy. He was also in the on Earth at one point.
Like THX, you guys talked about last week. That that one it didn't give beat for beat the plot of the movie. It talked about generally some things that go on within the film.
Right.
Yeah.
But you could accept the film if you wanted to. I don't think it would contradict anything. It's just on a planet, but it's not saying the film happened necessarily.
Right. Well, unfortunately, that is not good enough for some, but it's good enough.
Yeah, no, that's
it's good enough for me.
that's like one of the biggest complaints I've heard is that like, oh,
They haven't read it.
Exactly. It's from people who have not read a single paragraph of it, and I'm like, it's so artistically done. If
you read how it's carried out,
it's so good.
If you read the whole thing and you still dislike it, okay,
that's fine.
You read
exactly.
Like,
I think this is from people who have not read it.
Actually, I heard a criticism recently. Someone said it's completely antithetical to what Star Wars is. And I said, I challenge you to, have you read the end notes? And they said, no, of course, because the answer is always no, I haven't read it.
I guarantee you, Joe Bongiorno knows Star Wars better than most of the people making these complaints.
Well, that's obviously the case if you pick up the book itself. But it's so funny that just the level of ignorance displayed when people talk about this book, like they all have an opinion about it. But anyways, putting that aside, though, the end notes, I think, make a very compelling case for why this is incredibly faithful to not only George Lucas's vision of Star Wars, but also the earliest stories in the expanded universe. Russ Manning and Archie Goodwin and Alan Moore and all those people who seeded these early threads that they never really got the chance to follow through with because of the nature of publishing and whatever happened to the Marvel comics and that kind of thing, were picked up by Joe and weaved into a tapestry with the EU as it existed in the 2010s, right before it was decanonized. So I don't know. I mean, read the endnotes, and if you're still unconvinced, then either you're in bad faith or nothing's going to do it for you.
And then it also like just continues on like later EU works too, and adds even more to it, and it's so good. It's literally the gift that keeps on giving.
Right, and I get that some of the retcons that we'll probably be talking about a little later aren't going to resonate with some, but you don't
have to take those.
Yeah.
It goes literally in the last two chapters. It went from Splinter of the Mind's Eye to Dawn of the Jedi, which are at like the opposite ends of the real life timeline of release.
That's a very insightful comment that you made there. Actually,
like you don't have to take like certain retcons as like canon if you don't want to. It's always expertly done that. It's like it's left in a gray area.
I was just gonna say, until the EU is continued, and if someone were to take these stories, like how Christopher Tolkien has done, like the Silmarillion has a bunch of stories like the Tale of Luthien and a couple other things, and Christopher Tolkien has expanded upon that by making like a more in-depth story of the overall broad strokes that are addressed in the Silmarillion. So until we get more EU and someone actually like writes about something in here and makes that codified specifically exactly canon, the way this whole book is orchestrated is you can accept all of it, you can accept some of it, you can accept none of it, all depending on how you feel. It could all just be some fun tales that aren't true. Me personally, I accept everything in this book as canonical because we will most likely, I really hope we get more EU, but at this current rate, we do not have any. So I am more than happy to accept all of this as new additions to lore. I don't have any problem I don't have any issues with any of the things this book really brings up. I don't have an issue later on. We'll get into stuff with like certain names for certain characters, which people knew about when the book like first released because they skipped
because they control F. They just control F, typed in a term and then found it and then took it out of context.
Yeah, and they get super upset about it. I don't care about it. I like it. I don't mind it. I love everything that this book brings to the table, so I'm happy to accept all of it. That's true.
At worst, you can say this is an in-universe document because it literally is. It literally is an in-universe document. You just say, Hex didn't know what he was talking about, and that's it.
Yeah, and as we talked about in the earlier streams, it's literally the debate within the book that people are like, is this true, or is this some wacky dude creating these weird fantasies?
Yeah.
It just astounds me the level of ingratitude where Joe and his editors give us this, for all intents and purposes, free book. It's free book. It's free on his website.
Yep.
With beautiful art.
Oh yes.
And amazing maps and wonderful prose. And people have the audacity to complain about it as if it's a personal affront to them without having read it. Shame on you. Shame on you.
One other thing, because I got to get going. and this is my top 3 book in the expanded universe. And I've debated this over some time, and I finally decided I put Traitors number 1 only because of what it means to me and how it's affected me and how I feel about it. But I have, over several months of watching your videos, even if I wasn't in them, have made the decision that I do like it more than Plagueis. I put it above Lucidia, and I will stand by that statement. And
I just don't, for me, it's not an apples to apples comparison.
I know it's not
a novel with So,
but
I hear where you're coming from. I get where you're coming from.
And so, you know, the whole thing is like, how did it? You know, I wasn't a fan in 2014. I didn't know about the EU, but so many people were fans of it back then, and they were all being weaponized against them back in the day, and people still do it today with ignorant canon fans, you know, where they'll say, well, all your stuff is fan fiction. Does that make you feel good? Doesn't that piss you off every time somebody says that? I mean, now you'll have the memes where people go, well, just to deflect from that, they'll go, yeah, it was all fake. Who cares? You know, like some people on YouTube have done that because they're just a meme all the time. But, you know, it's a thing of back in the day, it seemed like all of us were kind of upset at some point about the fact that people were calling all this stuff that was canon, not canon. So, you know, to weaponize now this, it's like, so you went through all that bowling of dealing with people saying that about the EU itself, when we know for a fact it was canon. And so now with this, which this is a more complicated thing, but you have this story here, which, you know, regardless of its canonicity, it's here, it's free for you to read. You don't have to spend a dime to enjoy it. You know, people did that wanted to spend the money on it, but you didn't have to. You know, and so like I didn't spend money on it. I spent money at Legends Con. I didn't help contribute to it. Therefore, my name is not in the book because I didn't help. Right. So that's on me.
I wish I knew about it before.
Yeah. I knew about it, but I didn't do it. And that's on me. But regardless, it's here now. We have it. So it's like right now we're not getting anything else. So you're getting 900 new pages worth of material here. Maybe you won't like it, but you should read it and figure that out for yourself and not just go off the basis that it's bad or it's not canon, therefore I'm not going to read it. You should at least give it a chance, because you will most likely for a long time, until Lucasfilm starts listening, we're not getting anything else.
Yeah, I mean, the concept of canonicity in and of itself has never prevented me from reading something that sounds interesting to me.
Right? Look at all the people that praise Hand of Thrawn 45. And that's objectively
even outside of the Star Wars context. Like I've read several Star Trek books, and none of those are canon ever.
Right.
So I just want to read about people, like characters,
or like
and situations that I like reading about. That's it.
Yeah,
right.
And it's
if you're using the same argument that was used against you 4 years ago, you disappoint me. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, well,
you have become the very thing you swore to destroy.
Yeah. Plus, it's just it's fun seeing other people's perspectives on Star Wars, like Hand of Thrones, like his writings and how he sees the continuation of the EU. Like
that's a big tone.
Fascinating. Yeah, it's
Can you open it and show me how big the font is? Because that is a big book. Wow.
Yeah, like a normal expanded universe book.
Yeah.
It's large.
It's like Vision of the Future right there.
It's like
that's bigger. That's two visions of the future.
Yeah, it's 721 pages exactly. And this is only 700 days.
We have gotten a little off track with our musings and rantings, but no, it all needed to be said. Yeah. So
with that, I love this book. I love you guys. I'm gonna head out.
We love
this book is amazing.
You too, Alex.
Yeah.
Everybody keep doing what you're doing. I love the videos, even if I'm here or not. Keep spreading the good word. This book deserves the love that it gets from you. Thank you, Marcel, for starting this.
Yeah. I thank Brennan for the idea. See you later.
Thank you both. All right.
See you.
Bye.
Bye, Alex.
See you later.
Bye, Alex.
I've forgotten to mention that this of course is you will recognize what this is, perhaps. Anyone?
What?
Hold on, I gotta get the real
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's the Starforge.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's a Starforge. My wife got this for me for my birthday last year. So shout out to her.
I love that.
Yeah.
Your wife got you a shirt with the Starforge on it? That's the coolest sentence I've ever heard.
Yeah. There was no one more surprised than me. I was like, you don't know what the Starforge is. It was funny. On page 624, getting back to Supernatural Encounters, we learn about the sort of like the fate of Eartha over time, right? Bad stuff happens to this planet. Yeah, not great stuff. So I'm just gonna close some windows because I opened up so many Dead Space windows. I wanted to share that double helix with you guys. Here, let's see. Open in browser. Boom. Okay, this is what I wanted to share. I highlighted some specific areas, but essentially, right? We again talk about Zothique, the continent from the I believe Clark Ashton Smith works. Sorcery prevailed, taking the place of lost technology as knowledge of the past vanished. Mummies, monsters, and Malisons overcame the living. That sounds terrifying. Eartha became a memory, leaving most humans to believe they'd evolved on Coruscant. It was easier to accept such fables. Yet, for all its appearances, it was an uninhabitable dead world of radioactivity, atmospheric disturbance, and spellcraft gone awry.
Rip.
And then we find out what happens to Eartha. Gorog takes it and brings it to Illuthurion. Yeah.
That's where Hex finds it back at the
that's where Hex finds it. As he's what was he searching? Was he searching for the origins of humanity at the time or something like that?
Yeah,
or,
like that. And he was looking for like the Osarians, right?
And where they disappeared to.
I don't know if any of us remember, but was Eartha the first Earthworld that was seeded by Telotny, bringing humans into the?
I think so.
I want to say yes.
Can someone? I don't want to change where I am in my document, but if someone has a physical copy in front of them, can you look at the table of contents? I want to say it's in book 3.
Book 3, the first Earthworlds is where it's at.
Yeah, which one's the first Earthworld subheading that comes up? Is it Eartha?
It's chapter 24. The first Earthworlds, and the first Earthworld that shows up is Eartha. Yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
Sick.
Yep.
Page 180.
It's all coming together.
So that feels like forever ago.
That is essentially the I think we can say, right, the origins of humanity in Sky River is Eartha, and sadly becomes the most perhaps devastated planet, at least thus far. And we learn about different cults that are operating, right? We learn about the Shadow Council, the cults of Typhagem, the cults of Uradril and his ilk. I love this. I think this is on page 626. The Uradril cults were altogether weird, but far more transparent, offering immediate rewards at high risks, for which reason they attracted the desperate and ignorant, of which there were plenty to save the kindred for millennia.
No.
Awesome.
All I can think about is the little like Athorian baby getting crushed in Crystal Star.
And then and then we learn about the Typhagem cults. His priests had invented a complex mythological pantheon. Maybe that's the Lovecraftian pantheon. It says, I love this. She hated the priests as much as their forebear, for they had cleverly weaved subversion and horror around a pretense of antiquity, pedigree, and connected myth. That reads so well. I love how that reads. And then we're told that the Shadow Council was the most insidious of them all. They had been agents of propaganda in their prior wars, knowing how well to convince the common folk to act against their better interests. While their religious myths were akin to the Typhagem cults with some variations, that probably being the immortal gods and such. Their secular and cultural narrative intended to appeal to the pragmatism, greed, and power lust of sapiens had affected long-term galactic change. So the Shadow Council is really out there destroying galactic civilization as we know it.
Can I just say, with the unknown regions and everything kind of, bordered off and everything, and we're not done with things by far. So the immortal gods of the Sith, can you if nothing happens to them, if they are still alive by the time we finish this book, it's kind of really spooky to think that they're somewhere out there, in modern Star Wars history, New Jedi Order era, the immortal gods of the Sith. Imagine they're just out there, it's freaky.
They are the immortal gods of the Sith.
Yeah, so it's you think Abeloth's scary, but these guys are lurking out there.
Brennan, how far are you in the narrative? What? Have you finished the book yet?
No.
Okay. I know you're farther than us though. Or at least
chapter 70. The Great Schism with Zendor.
Oh,
very good.
Wow.
There is a Zendor reference coming up, which I was very delighted about. Yeah. So on before we get to page 626, 627, where Gorog does actually move Eartha to Ilithurion, there's this little part on page 626 where it says galactic rule by the Night Queen would be different. Can you read that for us, Ken? That paragraph?
Galactic rule by the Night Queen would be different. She did not require mendacity and the participation of lessers to keep the galaxy in line, as did the Sith. She and her eldest daughters would impose order while her loyal disciples enforced it. She did not require blind rubes and empty promises as Uradril did for his flocks. She would keep her word to her enemies and allies alike. She did not require cosmicist philosophy and hoary folklore to terrify the faithful and faithless as Typhogem had. She herself would accomplish this, as she had for a millennia in Ethereum.
So, hey, that doesn't sound so bad.
Living under this giant spider queen.
We can all become joiners, like Rain or Fall.
I'll take my chances, thank you.
I saw a meme today where it was like Rain or Fall. It was like the shocked Pikachu face where it's like Rain or Fall.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was my I posted.
Was it on your story?
Yeah, it was on my story.
It was like Rain or Fall like leaves the Killiks for like 6-7 years. Luke asks him to go back to the Killiks to get information. He becomes a joiner again. Luke's shocked.
What?
Yeah, that
was so upsetting. I remember reading that. I was like, no. I was like, you just got out of it.
I was ready for him to recover, go to some therapy, and instead they're like, go back, boy.
Yeah. Well, settle down, and then let's go back to the Darkness.
And then he would like go out on the steps of the Jedi Temple and just have lunch every day.
Lunch, I know. Yeah.
It was so sweet, and then they just send him right back. I'm like, come on.
Wait. When Dorvin runs to save him because he knows that Rain or Thal's going to get gunned down by Mandalorian. I love that part. I'm not a huge fan of Fate of the Jedi. I've been on record saying it, but I love that part particularly.
I will die
where Win Dorvin just sprints to save Rain or Thal's life.
At the end of Fate of the Jedi, though, didn't it say that Luke was sending some students to go try to get him back?
I don't know because I have two books left to go. But don't worry.
It did say that, Max?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it did. I'm like,
but we never got the conclusion there though.
I think we do in Sword of the Jedi in like the Hand of Thrawn one.
Yeah.
So here we have on page 626, end of 626, we're told that Gorog with these, so she descended into the lethal lair of the Colossus Ithil Queens to secure their aid. With these and her supernatural weavings, she removed Eartha from orbit and transferred it to a lonely region in Ilithurion, far from prying eyes, save for that of the coal-red sun, whose wary gaze exuded sufficient light and heat upon it. Terrifying for any denizens still living.
Just on the planet, just this giant spider.
Like all their stars just change instantly. The night sky, their sun changes.
Imagine being
you go outside to get your mail and you're like,
what?
That ain't right.
Do you think they experienced it moving, or do you think it was instantaneous? Because if they experienced it moving,
I would say instantaneous.
Instantaneous.
Can you imagine you go to bed and then the sky is how it is.
You wake up in a different dimension.
Wake up one day and like the moon.
If that happened, you know what I would be like, finally.
Finally.
Marcel, it's your average day in Yarnum.
Yeah. The blood moon rises link. And then on page 627, we find out a bit more of Gorog's servitors, as they're called, her hierarchies under vassal queens. There's the builder class, the warrior class, so like bugs, right? Votaries,
bugs.
The wizard class, and the king of the night spirit was the greatest of the wizards of the night spirit.
Ooh.
And then we're told about Moragaram, the vassal queen of the night spirit, which is one of Gorog's daughters. Moragaram is Morag. Is that Morag from the Ewok?
I'm pretty sure.
Yes. I guess later on, but
Cursed little gray.
She does not. She does not age well. If like the covers, she ages quite poorly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's been like a couple billion years or whatever. It's been a couple thousand years, but like
age has not been kind.
You maybe want like some skin cream.
She's got to invest in something like that.
The Ewoks probably have some soap or some berries that could do the trick for her.
Yeah, they got good soap.
I love their soap.
Yes, they do.
What's the Ewok battle cry?
Yup.
Dengar?
Dengar.
Yeah.
Dengar.
Not to be confused with the bounty hunter, but
he's like when he goes to Endor, he's like, what?
Why is everyone saying my name?
Why do they keep calling me?
I always think of Dengar as being really lame because he's the only human bounty hunter. I know in the actual story he's really cool, but like when I was a kid, I was like, wow. He's just a human. He's not Boba Fett either.
I was right there with you, Al, on that. I was just like, why is there a guy who looks like he's not done at the hospital out here with all these other aliens?
It's like a walking toilet, like toilet paper.
Yeah.
Zuckuss is always my favorite of that lineup. That's my boy.
I think my favorite of the lineup is probably IG-88.
IG.
Merciless, cold, killing droid. So Gorog bestows the title Vassal Queen of the Night Spirit upon her daughter Morag. I'm just going to call her Morag for short.
Yeah.
And gives her the Shadow Stone and sends her to Lesser Tana, which, as we know, is called Endor, or the Forest Moon of Endor, rather.
Endor moon.
And we're told on page 628, she alighted on Lesser Tana astride her Mantagru, with a small army at her back, wizards of the Night Spirit, Griog, Kredax, Blogs, Glocks, Zombas, Frosh, Plubes, Kriegons, Divdos, Octocores, Ski, Rakazak, Gorax. There you go, Gorax. There's a reference to, they're not native to Endor, I suppose. Great flying snakes, rearing spiders, and Rach, also not native to Endor. That's cool. All of whom were terrible to behold. She would employ her shape-shifting abilities to infiltrate the precursor civilization that dwelt there and exploit their weakness. And when the time was right, she would unleash death upon them.
Wait, so isn't the Mantagru in like the second episode of the series?
Yes, I was about to look that up.
Wow, that's so cool.
It's also mentioned in one of the very first passages of Supernatural Encounters on Mantagru wings.
That's so cool.
The Zomba is a panther-like animal that Tebow dresses up as. The Frosh have eggs that Wicket has to steal in an episode. The Plube is this really weird-looking thing. Pretty much, the Ski's like a two-headed rat that is like one of Morag's lackeys. And yeah, the Rach is in there as well. All good stuff.
Rach. By Michael Reeves, that episode actually wrote the Rach.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
That's right. Shout out to Michael Reeves and Paul Dini for writing those amazing Ewok episodes.
I completely forgot that Paul Dini wrote for Ewoks. So when I saw his name, I was going nuts. I was like, oh my God, Batman the Animated Series. That's awesome.
These guys were involved in, even Reeves was involved in a lot of 80s and 90s shows. That's very cool.
I think he had a credit on Batman the Animated Series too. I think
Reeves,
I remember reading that.
He also wrote for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I think, and a couple others.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah. Brennan knows more about Ewok lore than perhaps any other person I've met. Maybe Joe, but like Brennan is like top 3.
Ewok for sure.
I was making a video cataloging every alien species on Endor, and my script for it was like 5 pages, and then I stopped because I was messaging Joe like every hour, like, what's this one called? What's the other name for this one? Like, because I knew that he was expanding upon it in Supernatural Encounters. And so I was like sending him random screenshots from the show. Like, does this have a name? Does this have a name? What's this called? And then he was just like, well, you might want to wait until the chapter comes out. It's all in there. I don't remember it all. It's all in there. And so I was like, all right, I'll shelf the video, wait until SE comes out, and then go through that and find out all about these species.
Yeah, there is a lot. The forest moon of Endor is one of the richest ecosystems in the galaxy, I would say.
Well, you got to say it like Admiral Akbar, the forest moon of Endor, right?
And that was really good, actually.
And it's not just the forest moon, as the show showed us. That there's desert areas, there's mountainous areas, there's grasslands.
Sorry, I should have said the sanctuary moon.
Sanctuary moon of Endor.
I can't believe they didn't keep up the thing from the X-Wing books where he always has to make an analogy to the sea.
Oh, don't remind.
No matter what, he has to bring up the sea.
He always.
I wish he did that, and someone was like, "We're not in the sea. Stop it. Stop it, fish."
Stop it. Corn Horse is looking at him. Just stop.
Oh, on page 628, there's just like a brief reference to the Xanabar again. These guys, the Xanabar, they
everywhere.
They terrify me. They terrify me. They terrify me from the moment I read Crimson Empire 2.
Did they appear in anything else other than Crimson Empire 2?
I don't think they
I'm not sure.
I don't.
But there's this passage on page 628. I'm going to read you this. A violent and savage people given to even worse butchery than the Sith. They'd kept secret from the galaxy the offspring race they'd paid the Ankath to genetically engineer from Xanabar and Cathol DNA, taken on Yavin 4 during their earlier conflict. They reared the Jokath, much in the ways of flagitious and devious craft, and furnished for them great weapons of war and celestial forges to rival those of the Rakata, with whom they competed for dominance as the favored builders of the Ancient Ones.
Oh, man.
It's terrifying. These people are terrifying.
You gotta be really bad if you're said to be worse than the Sith. You gotta be really damn bad. You know.
That's cool, Darth Sidious. I didn't know that actually. I know you've read the early scripts, and we've talked about New Hope.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense now. I think because in the first couple scripts it was Had Abaddon, and there exists concept art of Coruscant from all the way back.
Had Abaddon is also an existing planet in the EU as well.
Yes,
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
There's an interesting part here about the Kashi Mirror, and sort of leads into that Zendor reference I was talking about earlier. But there's this sapient droid constructed by the Xanabar from a piece of the Abominor called Adro.
Huh.
And I believe Adro is essentially tasked with destroying the Kashi Mirror dynasty, which used to be servants of the Dark Powers, but have since kind of turned their back on the Dark Powers. So
we'll get there again.
Yeah, the Xanabar, I guess, tasked Adro with destroying the Kashi Mirror, but we're told that the sun Orixa, so the starbird that lives in the sun Orixa of the Ash Lords of Kashi, sacrifices itself.
Ooh.
And perhaps that is what the sigil at the beginning of book 6 refers to.
Oh, maybe.
To basically render Adro, this malevolent droid, into a pyramidal gray prism over which the spirits of the Ash Lords would keep guard, serving as a seal. That's cool.
Very.
There's on, I think that's on page 629, footnote 166. There's this reference to the RLS Legacy. Is that a reference to something here? RLS Legacy. Oh, okay. Well, Treasure Planet.
Oh,
nice.
The Disney movie.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Awesome.
So there you go.
There's a reference to Treasure Planet in chapter 2 as well of the book, with a species that was mentioned.
As you would find out on Brennan's Breakdowns. Please like and subscribe his videos. Like and subscribe to his channel, and smash that like button.
Turn on
the little bell notification button.
Leave a comment.
Leave a comment.
We love you, Brennan.
Share the link with your friends.
Share the link
with your family.
Force your friends to watch.
With everybody.
We're getting good at this. We're professionals now.
You share the link with your pastor, your parole officer, your love interests.
Share with your boss at work.
Your boss. Right? Your estranged parents. Or your dog. So we get this very interesting story starting on page 629, 630 about an individual. Her name's Retta, and I think she comes into contact with this talisman, essentially this gem that starts speaking to her. Right, this is Adro. It's take me with you, and she does. She steals it from this museum where it's been stored, and takes it, but eventually gives it back to this royal Macateros, and it's called the Orixa Talisman. So her name's Retta Jaluz, and she gave it to this guard, essentially. And we're told on page 630, the bottom of 630, leading to 631, that he gives it to his son Philip, then imprisoned on Argai, who could use it to pay ransom to the king of Kron, who had hired the overseers of the Geno Haradan to get him out of the way, as Philip had gotten involved in a political fracas with the fracturing kingdom of Kron. But in a rapid upheaval, events turned in Philip's favor, and with his training as one of the royal Macateros, he took Argai at the very moment that the Geno Haradan chose the same side, assuring the core worlds that the Taiwanese successors of the kingdom of Kron would join their soon-to-be galactic republic.
Nice. Interesting.
And then we're told on page 631 that Retta Jaluz would never return to Osis. That's where she was studying, by the way. The Orixa Talisman had been too long off of Kashi, and the Ash Lords were powerless to stop Adro, that being the actual talisman, like he was tracking the talisman, from fulfilling his ancient mission as he penetrated the heart of Orixa, which flamed into a supernova, destroying Kashi 450 years after the Republic's formation. And then, Ken, if you can read us that last paragraph, grieved.
Grieved and embittered with the loss of his world, Philip passed the Orixa Talisman to his son Zendor, who he trained in all the ways of the now extinct royal Macateros, teaching him as well as about the ancient forbidden lore of the Kashi Mare, which fascinated the Force-sensitive boy.
I love that. I love that intro. Just intro into Zendor lore.
That's so cool.
It does
There's
that several times.
Of the Kashmir dynasty from the Adventure Journal it's from. If we want to pull that up here.
Sure. Do you want to pull it up and I can let you share?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
Brendan, what were you saying?
Oh, I was going to say it does that several times in Supernatural Encounters where it will be like teasing something later on, and then it'll just like dovetail away from that, and then it'll loop back around later on.
Is this the Orixan Talisman?
Yeah, this is the
what's left of Adro.
Yep. I don't know who Superman is over here, but
it's actually Homelander. It's Homelander.
Oh, yeah. He does got the belt. Feel it.
Right.
That's Homelander.
And then on page 631, we get into a very interesting character who I named myself kind of after today. Lord Soros, not to be mistaken with Ken. You said George Soros earlier.
Yeah, George Soros, mastermind.
Yeah, let's not make that connection.
Yeah.
So essentially, we're told here on 631 that we found out earlier that the Sith are kind of had a falling out with the Kisai, and they locked themselves away in the Great Temple and that kind of thing. But the Sith are essentially strike back, and they alter the political and religious structure of Droman Kos, tossing aside the role of the Kisai for the Lich Lords. Right? Mm-hmm. So they come out of hiding. Lord Soros ends up making a pilgrimage to the Great Black Nest, or the Dark Nest. And Brennan, I would love for you to read us a paragraph, if you don't mind.
Which paragraph would that be?
Page 631, his journey. This is describing Lord Soros' journey through Illithurion.
Can you hear me all right?
Oh, perfectly.
Okay. His journey through Illithurion was as that of an unending kaleidoscope of horrors, but no matter the tortures inflicted upon him by its bizarre and never-imagined beings, he kept repeating his demand to see the Night Queen, insisting he would give his information to no other. At last, barely sane, he was granted his request, and taken within the mandibles of some undefinable insectoid that scurried rapidly down the twilit tunnels, across unnumbered, unfrangible strands of the great web, to the unconceivably vast black nest, until finally being deposited deep within the court of the boundless and malevolent Night Queen.
Terrifying, but yeah, he's brought in front of Thargorograt herself in all of her majesty.
I think
the
that's
heaving,
my worst nightmare.
Yeah, the heaving mass that was the Night Queen chittered. You have traveled far and weathered much to bring me this grim news. Her many red eyes penetrated Soros's mind. He was dazzled by her immensity, so profane and sprawling. It's described like a Lovecraftian entity. He could not tell where she ended and the darkness began. Why risk torment and death to tell me this? And then he says, because you are our queen, he croaked, hanging on to life by a thread. The goddess of night, established by the immortal gods to rule and reward as you see fit. So, I mean, she wasn't really established by the immortal gods, but who's keeping count? In any event, he basically asks her for help with the Sither, right? And her intent is to fuse him with her champion to create this Sith bug hybrid, right? Killick Sith. But the reason why this is important is because there's a reference to a Killick Sith Lord living thousands of years in the past in the expanded universe.
Yeah.
And we needed to know where this Killick Sith Lord came from. And this explains where he came from. But before we get before we get there, though, there's a very on page 633. There's a very interesting reference to a Killick Kubaz form fusion that she did using her dark science.
I was really excited about this one.
Yeah, go for it.
It says the one transformation that had succeeded was a Kubaz Killick fusion. The Kubaz personality had won out, but he was unable to maintain the Killick's joining powers, which were crucial for her goals and the main purpose of the endeavor. Nonetheless, the mutated creature Atravis was awarded the Bright Star, which was the crystal offspring of the Shadowstone. Atravis and his 4 mates and spawn had then been sent to Mustafar, where they would serve her in other ways.
That's so cool. And again, like, just the sort of mythological and epic proportions, I can't stress it enough, but the way that Joe writes, like, where they would serve her in other ways, it's like something that kind of it hints to something more.
Yeah.
And it just makes you want to know more.
Also, there was on Mustafar, there is like bug-like creatures. There's these beetles on Mustafar, and then like there are other creatures that look similar to like Kubas because they have sort of like a snout kind of. So it all makes sense. Like you see them briefly in Revenge of the Sith, and then like I'm sure they're expanded upon, and there's other visuals of them out there. But that's so cool because like I know you like see like the Mustafar like beetles like walking around in the movie very briefly. So that's really cool, and I love that.
I had been about to ask if you guys interpreted that as the Mustafarians descended from this Kubaz Killick hybrid.
That's what I got from it.
Yeah, I think so. If I had to describe this book in 2 words, it would be glorious synchronicity.
That's really good.
Because, I mean, really, there's like so many things here that just make sense at the end of the day, right?
Glorious continuity could be another one.
It does a great.
I like that one.
It does a great job of planting like seeds for the connections, but letting the reader make them for themselves.
Yeah.
It makes Supernatural Encounters the reader feel more involved than I think with a lot of other books because you're engaging with it a lot more to make the mental connections.
Well said.
Especially on themes like this.
Here, I'm going to see if I can prime up this Killick Sith Lord, unidentified Killick Sith warrior. Wikipedia is wrong because we have identified him.
Yeah. Once Wikipedia finally starts to include information from Supernatural Encounters.
I don't think that's ever going to happen, but it doesn't really matter because this basically this Killick Sith Lord comes from Star Wars Gamer 9, right? I'm going to share a picture of him as we talk about him.
That's so cool though, like a Killick Sith Lord. Look at him. He's vibing.
So Lord Soros fuses or gets fused with Gorog's champion Uku Nuku and becomes an obscene mixture of Killick and Sith. Soros was renamed Uku Sorosuku by the Dark Nest and later Dorythosaurus by the ricotta. Crawling forward, he bowed his crimson head before his beloved queen.
Wow.
Amazing.
So he's become something more. And what's interesting here is this: he has the Dorytha title, right? So Darth.
Yeah.
But
Sith Lord.
his personality is the dominant personality, because you have to find like which personalities kind of take over and the other gets subsumed into it, and Lord Soros kind of retains that personality, right? Uku Nuku gets subsumed into him.
Can I make a random comment that's like Uku Nuku? Every time I read that, I was thinking of I was picturing the Humu Nuku Nuku Apua, which is a fish from Hawaii. It's like nationally recognized by Hawaii. It's like this tropical fish. And I just was always thinking about that and picturing that every time I was reading about Uku Nuku.
How do you know so much about Hawaii?
I went there like 8 years ago and it was fun.
That's awesome.
So not only is he an expert on Ewok lore, but Hawaii lore too.
Hawaiian, like life forms and
biology.
Life forms.
Life forms.
You may know about real Hawaiian life forms, but I watched all of Lilo and Stitch the series.
That's so good.
I wish I'd seen Stitch. That would have been cool.
Yeah. When we talk about a Killick Sith Lord, I just imagine all of the crazy Sith Lords that we're introduced to in like Knight Errant. Like there's like a Cormayan Sith Lord, and you know, I think that's so cool. I love all these weird like Sith Lords, because it's just, you never think, like when you think of like a Sith Lord, you don't think of these weird species.
I got one for you.
So
Ewok Sith Lord.
Ewok Sith Lords. Imagine.
Oh, isn't that technically what Logray is? Sort of, not really.
Bless you, Logray.
I always wanted a Wookiee Sith Lord, like a big towering Wookiee with black fur, missing an eye. You know,
where's our Yoda Sith Lord? Where's our
I think we talked about that last time. I would really like to see a Yoda species
Kaminoan Sith Lord or something, or
that one goes. Yeah. That one just flows.
What's Yariel Poof's race called again?
Cormayan. There was
Cormayan Sith scholar at the very least, right?
Yeah.
Well, we kind of had that with in the Jedi Quest and Jedi Apprentice books. There was the Cormian who was like a Sith scholar.
Yeah.
He was interested in Sith alchemy and artifacts.
Merc Lundy.
Yeah, that's the name.
Yeah.
There also is the Cormayan Sith Lord in Knight Errant.
In Knight Errant.
I forgot his name, but he's in there.
Right.
Lord Calcium.
I need to read Knight Errant. That's something.
No, that was the Kravaki. That was the I can't remember like the real name. I know it wasn't Calcium, but it was something.
I always read it that way.
It was something else though. I can't remember it.
So Soros or Dorytha, I'm just gonna call him Soros for
that'll be easier than it's already hard to say.
The Hawaiian fishman gets sent back, gets sent back to Droman Kos with the dark nest pouring out in droves of the infernal gate. And attack the Sither and the Lich Kings. I just love how this is. It reads like a fantasy novel. To counteract this, the Lich Kings, who deemed themselves immortal, strode forth, brandishing Ophidian staves of putrefaction and crooked rods of abrogation. But as Thar Gorgrat's legions continued to surge forth without number, their legerdemain began to lose potency, and their brittle bones began to creak in exhaustion. And so, essentially, the Sither and the Lich Kings get driven off of Droman Kos. And they have to, they depart for the Ganinga Gap. Sither boarded their coiling, meandrous reptant ships for Jati in the Demophon system of the core worlds. And eventually, they're kind of wiped out, I think, right? Page 633. Well, not wiped out entirely, but... sorry, go ahead. Tell us.
On Jati, which is an ancient junkyard planet inhabited by giant worms that recycled garbage. Is that the world we saw in the Clone Wars show that Maul is on? Or is that a different planet?
That's Lotho Minor.
Lothar Minor, right? Because that's what my mind was picturing instantly, because there was the anacondan species that was down around there that like they grabbed his throat and snapped it. So that's where mine was going. What my mind was going. I was like picturing that as where they were going, which wouldn't be a nice place to flee to.
Nope.
Nope. Wouldn't have fun there.
So we're told though that sun was basically sparked to go supernova by Gunab, who I think was who's Gunab? Sorry, my notes do not say. This is on page 633. It says that they sent Gunab, so this would be the Xanabar, were again tasked to send one of their monstrous Ajogan droid creations. They sent Gunab, so this is like, I guess, Adro, and that same kind of thing, to see to it that Jati's sun collapsed in on itself. Eventually, he did carry out his mission and caused it to go supernova, but it says the disgraced brood of the Sith'er were forced to accept aid in fleeing Jati from a government they knew neither them nor their illustrious past. And so they dissimulated and pretended to be nothing more than yet another strange alien species, all the while biding their time, serving as the eyes and ears for their allies, the ancient Ankoth, who were now known as the true Sith.
Ooh, that's good.
And the Ankoth are basically, I think that's just another word for like the Lich Kings, essentially. So yeah, sorry, the Sith were not wiped out. They were just very much diminished.
And diminished.
Yeah. And then I'm just going to share so we can go through this. But basically, the next part is called the Night Herald.
And these are our last 2 pages before chapter 62.
Oh, is it? Okay. Good to know.
Oh yeah, we're coming up on that. Brennan hasn't seen it, so he doesn't know.
Don't worry, he will.
That's on the way.
You will be. But this part was really interesting because so the Battle of Dromakos was won, and the Synagogues of the Serpent was finally torn down. Gorog telepathically called her Dark Nest and proclaimed Soros the Night Herald, commanding him to establish dominion over all the Estrin sector, beginning with the Stygian caldera, etc., right? And we learn about some of the sacred worlds in the Stygian caldera. We don't learn about them, and we already kind of know all this from Old Republic materials, but Relg, Cardelva, Ziost, Craeus II, and Korriban.
And then we also see Dromankos like as it's like spelling that as we know it in like modern times,
Right.
And that comes from Soros calling it that.
That's so funny. I oh my god, I did not even notice that when I first read this. I glossed right over that.
Yeah. So it becomes like the modern version of the planet's name as we know it.
And so Soros reinstitutes the Kisai and the Misasi caste system to their former positions.
So we can thank him for all of the Sith, modern Sith stuff we have in terms of that.
Thank you, George Soros, for all
Yes.
the modern.
Yes, thank you.
Oh no.
That's because he's super rich, right?
Of course.
Thank you for reinstating the Kisai.
Thanks for bringing the
Love
Sith back, George Soros. Thank you.
Thanks for bringing the Sith back, George Soros, is something I thought I would never hear in my life. But here we are.
What an interesting sentence.
And then Gorog discerns that the Sith Empire will play a significant role in the spread of her magnificence to the galaxy. Then we get some very, very interesting Tukata lore, right?
Ooh,
yeah.
Let me see if I can find a Tukata picture. Okay, there's so many of them. Okay, this one looks pretty good. Maybe I'll try spinning. That's a good trick.
that was random.
Sorry. Chopachawa.
I can't believe I missed the biggest part of last week's stream.
That's my boy. Ooh. He's so cute. I just want to adopt him.
Nice.
Ken wants to adopt him and
adopt the Tukata.
Feed him treats.
Pack of them.
He looks strangely like a spark hunter or a spark eater from
yes, he has the face of like a baboon almost.
Of More Than Meets the Eye. So
is that from a new canon comic?
It looks like it.
Yeah, I would bet.
Is that
I'm pretty sure I know which comic it comes from too.
Let's find out.
I'm pretty sure it's from one of the Galaxy's Edge.
Galaxy's Edge #4. Yeah. Wow.
Yep. There we go. See, it's that coloring. That coloring gives it away, right?
That's
Like,
exactly what
style,
gave
you
it
can
away.
just
I
tell
was
it's
like,
new
yeah.
The only comic that has similar coloring to that is some of the issues of Empire. I think has similar colors.
Here, I will. Boom.
Darth Bane. I know. Doesn't he fight a bunch of Sith hounds?
Here's from the Jedi Academy training
And
manual.
don't they show up?
Oh my God!
now that's a metal album cover.
Now that's cute.
Now that's a dog.
Now
Yeah.
that's a dog.
You know what it's singing right now? It's singing like it just can't wait to be king. So what I really liked about this is that you get a Lovecraftian kind of reference here. The far
arm.
They're trying to figure out.
Looks like it lifts weights.
Marcel, do you not see Femto in that thing? The arms.
What about it?
The arms, like the way they're like structured.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, for sure.
That arm
there's
looks
a
like
new
bigger
Kata
than the entire body.
clawing at my door. Give me a second.
It's like Hulk's arm with claws on it.
I know. Oh my God.
The thing was beefy.
All right, now that this makes Darth Bane fighting a whole pack of them a lot more badass.
Darth Sidious says he wants to play Nintendo Kata.
Sega does what Nintendo Kata. That doesn't work.
Tukata, more like Soul Kata.
What's interesting about the Tukata lore that we get on page 634, 635 is that there's all these different theories as to where they came from, and one of them is like Soros heard Sith tell stories of the beast's depraved origins, claiming that Typhagem had alighted upon Korriban in its once lush youth and bred with the beasts of the field, begetting the first and greatest of the Tukata queens, whom he named Jataeus, the mother of all hellhounds, because they're demon dogs, they're hellhounds, right?
Yeah.
But it's funny because like Typhagem alighted on Korriban, but it's like part of Korriban. Part of Typhagem is Korriban. So I remember talking to you guys about this. I was like, I'm so confused. It's like, well, it's just like a myth, right? But we also find out, like older ones said that they come from the far off plains of Leng. Leng being, of course, like a very popular mythical continent that's referenced a lot in Lovecraftian mythos. And then we're told that they're worshipped by the Deshad, or Jataeus, that queen of the Tukata, is worshipped by the Deshad as Mistress Death. And from her and her progeny sprung all manner of abominations: Sith hounds of Korriban, dread beasts of Oricon, the great maws of Balmora. A lot of this is like SWTOR references and stuff. Sulky hounds of Coruscant, the monstrous hounds of Ziost, hunt beasts of Lehan, warhounds of Alderaan, bog snarlers of Nalhutta, spirit beasts of Voss,
Ack
dogs of Harun Kal, which you would see in Shatterpoint, dread maulers and Bonar hounds of Belsavis, and the flame-spitting tech monsters and elder fighting beasts of Nar Shaddaa.
Oh man,
I love that. So they're all potential progeny of Jataeus and the first Tukata.
But I just wanted to bring this up because we kind of glanced over it. But on page 634, it's like each of the the worlds within the Sith, Stygian Calderia, is dedicated to the immortal gods of the Sith, with Droman Koss being reserved exclusively for
the Father of Shadows. Yeah,
it was
I saw
really
that.
cool. I like
cool.
Little
Tukata, there we go.
Love it.
Pretty sick.
Awesome.
So we're told on page 635 that after several years in which the Sith worlds were firmly entrenched in her webs, the unseen queen called to Lord Soros to prepare for her coming, as she would now go forth into the galaxy to unlock the celestial seals, for although her forces could easily enter the forbidden regions, none could leave. And then she appears to what world was it that she comes over? She descended on the Stygian caldera, breaching the seal that kept her servants locked in the Estrin sector. Upon seeing that fantastically massive black mass of archiform corpulence with 1,000 legs and a myriad crimson eyes, many died of sheer fright. For to look upon her was to look upon madness. I mean, it's not as bad as Typhagem. Whenever someone utters a word, or whenever he utters a word, someone dies. Yeah.
You know somebody looked at Thug Orgarat and was like, man, we need a bigger newspaper, and was immediately eaten.
We need the industrial size can of Raid.
We need
Did
the
you-
giant
Brennan,
water.
did you catch the reference to Cabas Dabe on Muzara?
No, I
It's on,
haven't read
I
this
think
in
it's-
like 3 months.
I think it's on the bottom of page 635.
Right now, I'm thinking like, did I read this? That's like how much content there is here. Oh yeah, Kabastaba on Muzara in the deepest pit of Iluptrife. Gather the apocalyptic warlocks to serve as your hands in the caldera. That's really cool.
Yeah,
and then the Killick again. Very nice.
She tells Lord Soros. Sorry, I mentioned earlier that she gives Morag the Stone of Shadow, but she doesn't actually give it to her directly. She gives it to Lord Soros, who eventually will give it to Morag. We're going to get into that in chapter 62. We've spent 2 hours on one chapter, but I told you this chapter was probably the most dense lore-wise that I've seen in a long time.
I just wanted to bring this up really quick. It says the Night Queen now passed before Lesser Tana, but displeased with the lack of progress she saw there, she moved on to other areas. Her cancerous sibling Nal had proved a problem in the Forbidden Zones, but his attempt to expand his sphere of influence beyond Visimil had been thwarted by the Ones. So it's like, and it says by the ones who scorched the surface of that dead world. He was best left on Mortigan until she was certain of the Infinity Gate's efficacy, as that would be an unequivocal means of eliminating him. So, well, she is looking to defeat her brother, but also I just think like that's such a cool thing to imagine. It's like the Ones like dealing with now. That is so cool.
Yeah,
I love that.
They're trying to because I mean, if he were to get out, he would probably consume the galaxy, right?
Yeah,
in a way that like Urdril and his ilk could only ever dream of, right? And they don't care about domination; they just kind of want to feed off of their followers and sing, and, dance across the stars. Whereas, like
having fun.
Yeah, Ngal wants to consume everything, right? He's the cancer god. So she basically, and we're going to find out why there hasn't been any progress on Lesser Tana or Endor. We're going to find out in chapter 62 why she perceives no progress on that front. But she basically sends Lord Soros. She gives him the Shadow Stone and says, like, go there and get this thing kickstarted. Like, I want that Sanctuary Moon.
Sanctuary Moon.
She says, hone your powers in the caverns beneath Cabas Dabe and Muzara, in the deepest pits of Iluptrife. Gather the apoptic warlocks to serve as your hands in the caldera. When you have accomplished this, go to the Killick Nest on Alsaken. Make yourself known. They will come to serve you as you came to serve me. Await my signal, then send forth the legions. And so that sort of like explains why there's a Killick Sith Lord on Alsaken. May I just say that it's very cool how I'm just gonna re-Google that unidentified Killick Sith Lord. So
this chapter 61 is jam-packed. Oh,
this creates a bit of a weird spot in the expanded universe, because there's the Killick Sith Lord circa 27,000 BBY. But according to what we know, the Sith aren't really created okay, so there's King Adus, and we're told that he's sort of, ancient prehistory and stuff like that around that time, right? And that the Sith have existed for thousands upon thousands of years as a species.
Yeah.
Right? But what's missing from the narrative is Sith as a title.
Yeah.
That other
You were talking about
species.
this earlier,
Yeah. And yet there's this Killick Sith Lord in 27,000 BBY, but that goes against the accepted narrative of Sith Lords as we understand them in the expanded universe. But also makes a compelling case for the Sith as a concept, as a faction being around long before what is the conventional wisdom of the expanded universe.
Yeah.
Right? So I just think it works.
It does.
I think it makes sense because there were criminals before there were police, right?
Yeah.
And then we get to chapter 62, Hibernal Tales. from the Endor moon.
We are the friendly spirits from the forest glow. We're friendly spirits from the forest glow.
I had to do it.
Awesome.
That should be
that's better than all
about Endor.
I had to do it. Hopefully we don't get copyright stricken, but we'll see.
Ewoks music over John Williams.
Okay. Well, let's calm down. Maybe. I have to meditate.
That's
on
a hot take.
Spicy take.
So does anyone want to give just a brief overview of what Morag has been doing on Lesser Tana since she landed there?
Anyone else?
Brennan, you want to give a crack at it?
I just reread this like an hour ago. I think
I can do
fair
it.
enough.
Someone else should
You want to do it? All right, I can do it. So Morag is basically commanded by her mother, looking for more places for their kin and their bug people to dwell and gradually conquer the universe. And so Morag has been living among the denizens of Endor, and just kind of causing trouble there with all of her weird creatures and her Mantagru and everything else. So,
but what she didn't expect is that she would fall in love.
Yeah.
There is a what's he described as? He's described as an Ickle sentinel of King Boria Kubra.
Stagor is his name.
Yeah, Stagor is sent to hunt down, because there are 4 monitors. They're basically like, what? How would we describe them? Like
they're like Endor
seasonal gods of Endor.
Seasonal deities or something.
Seasonal guardians?
This is Stagor. He's from the comics.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Right. Yeah,
he's an ice demon in the comics, and
we find out. Yeah, we find out how he becomes an ice demon too, and here I will pull up this picture just so people can see a little better. But Stagor is basically charged with finding the vassal queen of the Night Spirit on behalf of King Boria Kubra, and he's an Ickle sentinel.
Oh wow!
And he chances upon this woman.
There's a bit in the comic where he's holding Tebow and Wicket in the palm of his hand.
Oh my!
To give you a sense of scale, yeah.
Wow. And Morag went for that. Okay, I see you, girl.
So we get to page 637, which starts off as Morag meets the Sentinel of the Snow King. And Morag has assumed the identity. She's not like a spider woman. She's changed her look. Her name's Lindronigan, right? That's her alias. Yeah. And she strikes up a bit of a friendship with Stagor, and he, I think, falls for her essentially and starts bringing her, like all manner of like fruits and nuts and such, provisions. And he'll visit her, and they'll talk, and eventually they fall in love with one another, right?
Yeah.
As these things generally do. But what's interesting, I think, before I kind of glossed over it, but page 638, he talks about on Lesser Tana, the progenitors did not fashion any of the beasts to eat one another. This was once true across the galaxy, but much has changed in the infinite stars since the wars. So it's like there was no carnivorousness. Is that a word? There were no carnivores, essentially, right? But over time, as things deteriorated, races started eating one another.
Grew more influence.
Yeah, sentience may have started eating other types of races and that kind of thing.
The Xanabar started filing their teeth.
Yeah, the Xanabar, the CEO of eating people. Like,
hey, Brady, good to see you, man. Always a pleasure. Fine Editions, check out his channel. He does EU content. Subscribe, hit that bell button, etc.
Back on page 636.
Yeah.
When Stagor is going to the southern part of East Linden, there's the people are called the Scandits.
Yeah.
They're straight from the cartoon. They're basically raccoons. If you could pull up an image of them, they're hilarious looking.
Yeah, well, it's SKA.
Skandit.
Yeah.
They're amazing. They're from the cartoon and they're little rascals. I love them.
Oh yeah. Oh my god.
I also love them now. These are now my favorite species.
Yeah, we need
that's your favorite species. Okay.
We need a Sith Scandit. That's what we need.
I think you're right.
I need a Sith scan. That's
You know what reminds me of
Reminds
my daughter was really into Dora the Explorer. Reminds me like
I was about to-
Swiper the
I was
Fox.
about
Yeah.
to say that.
And I think they've got bandit masks. So the writers of Ewoks obviously just switched the letters around a bit and created Scandit. And
wow,
I love them.
Because we're contractually obligated. The Paw Patrol could stop the Scandit.
Scandit's no Scandit.
They look like they came directly out of like a Pink Panther cartoon from 1960.
You just know
You're
that
so
like
right.
the way that they like chuckled like
Oh yeah,
Right?
I've not seen this episode. That's exactly what happens. You just described reality.
I mean, yeah, they have, from what I remember, high-pitched screeches and scurrying.
That's so funny.
Oh wow.
I love them. Raccoon noises.
That's funny.
Unfortunately for Morag, though, her reverie is interrupted unceremoniously by the herald of the Night Queen, who so Lord Soros visits her. I'm going to share the actual text itself because it's really cool. Can you read that second paragraph for us, Ken? Teeth clicking.
Teeth clicking like mandibles, the crimson tentacles of the Sith cranium, his Sith cranium, quivering above the rugose malignancy of his ruinous insectoid frame. The monstrous Sith Lord stood before the daughter of his mistress. I am the herald of the Night Queen, he began without prelude. She stared as if shaken out of a dream before remembering herself and realizing that her mother's trials must have borne fruit. I have been sent to bring you succor and additional arms in your battle against the monitors. With a smirk that made him appear even uglier, he added, I do not believe she is aware of your current arrangement.
I love it.
Nice.
That's
So he shows up and he's basically like, "Hey, by the way, remember your job?"
He's like the guy from Office Space. He's like,
got a job to do?
yeah, I'm gonna need you to get back on that thing we had you do here. Yeah.
And he gives her the Shadow Stone. He said the Lindronigan, or Morag as we know her, the Stone of Shadow. She gasps, carefully taking it from his grasp. Indeed, this Lord Soros must be valuable for her mother to have granted it to him, even for a short time. The time must be near. You yet have time for your domestic affairs, he said with a thinly disguised sneer. For I depart now for Alsakasla. Do not forsake the staff, for it has great powers in its own right. So he gives her a staff with the Shadow Stone on it.
Nice.
And she uses it. Well, we're going to see. I'm not going to spoil anything. We'll get there. Morag and Stagor, their relationship. Whoa, we just lost Brennan. A communications disruption can only mean one thing.
Invasion.
Indeed.
Communications disruption can only mean one thing. Invasion.
Oh, he's got to head out.
Yeah.
Oh, that's too bad. Oh man. Well, we got the most important bits of Endor lore from him, so I suppose that's okay. Morag and Stagor go on this. The Scandits took him. Morag and Stagor go on this kind of like idyllic retreat. He brings her to the Lake of Bay. I'm sorry, I saw that name. I just started laughing. And there they have a discussion. he says to her, he's like, "Are you the vassal of the night spirit that I and my people have been hunting these past many months?" And she says, "I think you know that I am," replying plainly. "You have long known it, just as you've known my love for you." And he says, "I need to hear it from you. I needed to hear it from you." And she asks, "Does this change things now that you know?" And he says, "No, it does not." One of her hands still in his, he led her to the fortress of Minid, where they were permitted into the beautiful onyx depths of the Rock Gnome's Keep. Right? He wanted to show her the Rock Gnome's Keep. And they had a marriage. A marriage ceremony, right? The marriage ceremony was held, this is on page 641, in a majestic sacrarium raised out of diamond and jade. Several of the local residents, having heard of an event, sat in attendance. In those few moments of bliss, Lindronigan felt free of the politics and war and the scheming chitterings of her mothers and sisters. Seemed like a dim memory from another life. But then a voice intruded into her reverie. "It was wise to marry one so close to the throne." So it's basically like, I think that's Gorog basically saying like, "Yeah, good for you, my daughter.
Yeah.
Now you can use this to usurp King Borio Kubra and take the Northern Kingdom for yourself. Then you will gather your hidden forces and wage war against the other three." And she says like, "As you say, mother." Right? So... and then we get like a bit of lore here that she was true to her word, and over the course of the year, because they visited this basically castle of the Rock Gnome, she teaches the Rock Gnome healing abilities, or rather helps him augment his healing abilities, learn telekinesis, and he changes his title to the Rock Wizard. Now I'm pretty sure the Rock Wizard appeared in...
That's real.
Yeah, Rock Wizard. Yes. I'm going to share a picture with you. He was in the Ewoks cartoon, The Curse of the Jindas. I love that episode, by the way. Traveling Jindas.
Man, I gotta watch this show.
I've not got there yet.
Eventually.
I only watched a few episodes last night. Mostly the ones dealing.
There's the Rock Wizard. Look at him.
Oh my!
He looks awesome.
Look at that face.
He's vibing.
He's vibing.
I want him versus 1,000 Scandits. I want to see who wins.
They're just like throwing themselves at him, and he's just
and he's just like
flinging them off like Sauron and Fellowship.
Awesome. Big gutsy 100-man fight.
Thanos fighting the Avengers in Wakanda. He's just brushing them off like they're nothing.
So now that Lindronigan has taught him some things, and she's now married to Stagor, they return back to their home in Linden's great eastern forest, and they produce a child named Odra. He's going to become kind of a central figure in this next little bit of the chapter.
I got her picture pulled up right here if you want me to.
Yeah, please share it.
Yes. There we go. All right. This is not what I was expecting, for the record. When I was reading this, I was like, oh, interesting.
What does she look like?
Sort of like Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh, God.
Oh, my.
Yeah. I don't quite know what the design, I don't know, like, the character designers. They're like,
I mean, go off, I guess. I mean, like,
I like the design. I was not expecting it.
But those
really cool.
Those lips, though.
Oh, it's like handsome Squidward. Oof. Oh gosh.
Yeah, she's like female Squidward.
Female handsome Squidward.
Why? It's so weird that she's an ice character, because like you see this, you're like, oh, water, because she's like a fish person.
She's like a swamp monster.
But no,
she looks like a humanoid version of the Pokemon Vaporeon a little bit.
Oh no.
Oh,
mental. No.
She kind of does.
Oh.
That's her,
a little bit, like the frill, like on the.
Oh no, I see it. It's just that.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, I guess go off.
all of the seasoned sovereigns look totally wild in the Ewoks cartoon. I was not expecting.
I bet.
I was not expecting what we got.
Nobody can be as cool as the Rock Wizard.
No.
The Rock Wizard's the coolest.
The Rock Wizards, he's just vibing, as you said.
Yeah, he's just vibing.
Fighting 10,000 Scandits.
He's vibing.
Just as many Scandits as it takes to defeat him.
The Rock Wizards and the 10,000 Scandits.
Now that's the EU story I want.
He's vibing in his castle. Like he's in there. He's chilling.
He's undeterred by the thousands of Scandits flowing into his home,
Al,
chewing at his ankles.
You and me one day will write a short story where the rock wizard fights an army of Scandits for no reason
other than they just fight.
Okay, 6 billion Scandits.
It just like there's no reason for the conflict. It's just like when in the script, it's like there's this like dialogue, and it's just they fight, and then it's just the rest.
They're offended. They're offended by the fact that he's just vibing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're offended.
They're coming to ruin
Your
his
vibe
day.
pass has been revoked. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and he
was
like
too chill.
He's definitely got riz.
So at the bottom of page 641 to 642, going into 642, we find out that Stagor returns to court finally after all these years, right? Because he's been off with Lindronigan, and they had a daughter together. He brings Odra with him on her insistence.
Yeah.
And he basically tells King Borya Kubra, he's like, she's a frost sprite that crashed on our world and helped save me. Essentially, I've been a prisoner all these years. So he lies. Doesn't say that she's his daughter.
The Snowy Maiden.
And King Borya Kubra, who's the Snow King, buys it, and she becomes kind of a member of his court, essentially. And she has the hots for him. She's enamored with King Borya Kubra and wants him. She wants to be his consort, his wife, his queen. And he awards her with the title the Duchess of Sleet, which I thought was cool.
That's kind of a kick-ass name, not gonna lie.
And in appreciation,
this is what she's thirsting after.
She composes a poem for him, though, which I would like.
I want to see what he looks like. I didn't get to see what the king, the Snow King, looks like.
Oh,
hello there. I'm King Borya Kubra.
That's what she was going after, girl.
She was like, "This guy is hot."
You might as well have a crush on Santa Claus.
I mean, who doesn't though?
Well, I saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus. Isn't that a song, right?
You know what? Say what you will about King Borya Kubra, but those cheeks look like they're just.
But he's not vibing like the rock.
No, he's not. He's not vibing. The rock wizards. Can someone? Don't do it right now while we're streaming, but like afterwards, just meme like a pair of like sunglasses on the rock wizards so that we can.
I would love
to be fair, the Sun King is actually vibing. When we get to Sun King, I got a lot of comments from the Ewok cartoon.
Before we get there, though, Al, do you want to read this poem that Odra wrote for the king?
Max, you want to read it?
And if you, I mean, you were requested to do it, but you can do it. If you.
I was just trying to give Al some spotlight. If he doesn't want to do it, though, Max, you're welcome to.
I can always do it.
Max, since you wanted to do it, I feel like you should do it. If you want to do it, I want you to
Are you sure?
Yep.
Someone read the poem.
Okay.
You're doing.
Frostbound King of Eternity, upon his frozen throne, winter reigns in majesty, an air snow-swept zone. In glacial world of crystal flowers, ages pass in rimy towers. Gelid servants, frigid maids, shivering courtiers, sleep parades. Tana's snowbound emperor, Arctic Kaiser, lord of ice, boreal laws of ancient Indor. Forged in hoary sacrifice, can winter tide and ice age dawn melt in the heat of lover's pawn? Can worlds of snow and sleet collide in blaze of queenly August bride? That's actually kind of sweet.
That actually impressed me quite a bit because trying to come up with so many ice-related rhymes, I would run out of. I wouldn't even. I would not make it to the second line.
He can pull off anything.
The thing that really stood out to me, I don't know if anybody here was old enough to have Batman the Animated Series figures where it's like
I did. I had Clayface, Man-Bat. Oh God, I can't remember who else.
Do you remember the weird Batmans where it's like he was like orange and it's like lava attack Batman?
Yeah, of course. They usually pair them with like accessory, like the vehicles or whatever, right? Like
some like big thing.
Hydrofoil Batman.
Yeah, when I read Arctic Kaiser, I was just thinking of Kaiser Wilhelm in like a parka. I was like, that's Arctic Attack Kaiser.
Okay. Can I give you
what my brain.
A bit of Max lore here that in regards to the lava Batman. Sorry, this is so stupid.
No, it's not. This is what I live for.
When like Dark Knight was first coming out, I was like 8 years old, and me and my cousin, like he bought like this Batman toy, and like the Batman suit was like this goldy orangey color, and we called him Honey Mustard Batman. Because he looked the color of honey mustard. So it's like when you said lava attack Batman, I just thought of Honey Mustard Batman.
Look, Batman comes in all shapes and sizes, okay?
That's true. I had every Batman but a regular Batman. I had Batman in orange and purple and green. I had Internet Attack Batman. That was real.
Wait, no, it's not.
Yeah, I don't know if it's called Internet Attack, but it was like Internet Cyberspace Batman and Robin. And it's so bizarre. I forget exactly what they're called. I could look it up later and send it to you. But like,
please do.
They're like translucent, and they're from like the Batman Beyond toy line. And I was like, man, why can't I just have a regular Batman?
Cyberspace Batmobile. It says Cyberspace Attack Batman. What is this?
Yeah. Well, it sounds impossible to be real. Like, I'm sorry.
It's both the best and the worst thing ever. I had both Batman and Robin. Those were like my main Batman and Robin as a kid, and I was like, wow, I can't even afford the real Batman and Robin.
The orange Batman, and I can't get it out of my head. It's just the Honey Mustard Batman.
Oh, jeez. All right, you degenerates, you degenerates, you Batman degenerates. So Odra dons her Batman suit, and I'm kidding. Odra, she talks to her mother about Boria Kubra, and her mother's like, once Mother comes to take over, so once Gorog comes to take over, you can take any husband and world of your choosing. And she's like, I do not want any husband or world. I want Boria Kubra and this world.
Oh my God. But Mom, I love him.
Yeah, and I will have them. For years you've been saying grandmother. For years you've been saying grandmother will send the signal any day now. I am through postponing my life. I will not become an old maid waiting on some ancient crone who has probably forgotten about us by now or is dead. I love that. I love that. It's like such a rebellious teenager. But Boria Kubra is betrothed to another, Lady Arctos, who Odra unceremoniously like throws off the parapets. She like kills her essentially. Right?
Oh, that's right.
She pushes her off a roof. A sudden scream stirred her. She looked about. Lady Arctos was nowhere to be seen. By instinct, she peered over the battlements. There, her body lay broken on the ground. Oh man!
Oh man!
But like, she still doesn't get Boria Kubra because it's like then it's like the next in line, right? The Duchess of Sleet is very far down that line. Stagor though wants to take matters into his own hands because he sees how much his daughter is hurting, and like any father would wants to ameliorate that or fix the problem for her. So he decides he will take matters into his own hands and force Boria Kubra to consent to marry his daughter Odra. How does he propose to do that? Does anyone remember?
No.
He goes to summon an immortal god of the Sith known as Wendigon.
That's right.
With a blood sacrifice, and Wendigon basically comes and he's like, this sacrifice is not worthy enough for me.
Father of the Year award.
Right? Basically makes essentially a deal with the devil. But he I love it.
They call him the Krulok, the Winder, right?
I believe
so. Is this a real character?
Isn't the Krulok? I swear I've heard the Krulok name before. Is that something in the cartoons or like any sort of comic?
I briefly looked into it and I couldn't find anything, but I didn't look very hard.
When you need him.
Yeah.
So people begin to wonder about Stagor's changed demeanor, right? And he it says the Winkin, that's kind of like the Winkin are like the they're like the force, the military forces, essentially. When they learn of his changed demeanor, and they start basically gossiping about it and saying, they gossip about it to the Lady of Autumn, the Leaf Queen, who's one of the other 4 monitors. And when he learned of it, he grew enraged, stalking and killing a troop of 7 of the 4 patrolling the outer border of the Kingsland. So he kills a bunch of Winkin soldiers. Ooh. And after this terrible deed, he brings their corpses to the same location as when he had first summoned Windigon, who said that his first sacrifice was insufficient. And he summons them again. And Windigon tells him the strong cannot be controlled in this way, but as to your admirers, and he turns Ickle soldiers under Stagor's command to ice demons. Ooh. So it wasn't long after Autumn and her forces returned to their own kingdom that Stagor and his ice demons made their move against Borya Kubra. But Borya Kubra fights back. I'm going to throw up some highlighted passages. Might be a little small. But essentially, when everybody should have been asleep, he leads his Wechuge, his forces, to attack. And the Snow King emerges with a season scepter in his hand, and he freezes Stagor, basically.
Oh, man.
He blasts out a beam. He Kamehamehas him, and using a scepter, and traps him. Wow. And Odra pleads ignorance. She's like, I had no idea my father was going to do this. Claiming that he'd only wanted what was best for her. His silence, I guess his being Borya Kubra, spoke to his disbelief and disappointment. So she's fallen out of his favor at this point. The anger that met it was filled of Odra's frustration and blame for leading her on, and she wept for her sorry state. Right, so she feels like he's led her on.
Yeah, he kind of did.
Well, yeah, and it's admitted later on in the text that he kind of feels bad for leading her on when he knew he couldn't be with her because of the restrictions placed on his office, right? Like he has to follow a certain hierarchy of potential spouses before he can marry, right?
There's a system in place. She's trying to jump the line.
She is trying to jump the line. Just murder every single woman, eligible woman that he is in line to marry King Borya Kubra.
So that's the
guy. Yeah. That's the guy, by the way.
Rock giant versus all the Scandits. She's the rock giant attacking the 7 billion Scandits.
Yeah, but she's not vibing. She's not vibing them. Not like the Rock Wizard. Nobody can vibe like him. The vibes with the Rock Wizard are immaculate.
Vibe check.
Look, she's all up. She's all up in his business.
Oh yeah, yeah. This is when he's under her control. He looks all like he's like at 90-degree angles and stuff. It's wild. He's all angular.
I love this. She's like, "Hey,
it's his
Borya Kubra."
Period.
Hey, she's trying to put the moves on him.
It's so fun in the cartoon, in the episode. It's like a Looney Tunes routine. Wicket, Tebow, and Latara, I think, come in and they're like, "Get your free icicles here. Get like popsicles. Get your icicles," and they just let them in. It's fun. I love this show.
Hey, this is kind of amazing. Here, I'm gonna share another picture of Borya Kubra.
Uh-oh.
Oh no. Oh, no,
wait a second. He kind of looks like Tom Selleck. Right. I got to share a picture of Tom Selleck now. No, look.
Oh my god.
No, he looks He looks dead on.
Oh my god.
Oh look, there's
not just what we saw. Keep that picture in your mind, and we're gonna go back to Borya Kubra.
Can I?
It's like Tom Selleck.
That's literally spot on.
Oh man.
You kill like 5 people over this guy. This way,
Oh,
this is
double
your
time
ultimate goal
Alex.
right here.
She's like, I would burn the very stars for your love.
He looks
like-
so like upset in that picture too.
He looks like discount Dr. Phil.
Lindronigan, of course, would blame Odra for the loss of Stagor. So she blames her daughter for the loss of her husband, accusing her of manipulating him into prematurely moving against the monitors. But of course, we know that doesn't really seem to have been the case. He did it because he loves his daughter.
Yeah.
Right?
Let me just say how awesome it is to like have a lot of visuals like for these characters and stuff, because like usually we don't have like visuals and stuff. So like it's cool to actually like picture it and like be able to like visualize it better with these like pictures and stuff.
Yeah.
The face of a man who knows what the ladies want. That's right.
That's true.
Boria Kubra.
Listen, if I saw Dr. Phil melting, I'd be like,
yeah,
okay.
We're told that Odra never gave up on her plots to King Boria Kubra, determined to become this world's one and only Snow Queen. She's determined. And then on page 646, we got a list of the 4 monitors whom some of us are named after now. There's Queen Autumn, the Leaf Queen, who we had met earlier because she visited King Boria Kubra. King Boria Kubra, the Snow King. Queen Maeve, the Flower Queen. And King Usul, the Sun King. Praise the sun. Along with them, their guards, soldiers, and many of their loyal protectors march through the Forest of Thorns. So at this point, they're going to take the fight to Lindronigan, the vassal queen of the Night Spirit herself. Right? And they or Morag, as we're going to call her, and they attack her. Essentially, they storm her castle. The Protectors of Tana, as they're called. And they now penetrating the magical barrier around her central chamber. Queen Autumn announced, "Depart this world and never return, or suffer the fate of the vile." So they basically want her to leave.
Yeah.
But something happens, which leads to an all-out war. I think
World War Endor.
That's right. Commanded by the Night Queen, a cloud demon burst open a tunnel to Lesser Tana, into which the King of the Night Spirit flew.
Is that the purple guy? Is that purple guy on the cover?
Okay, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Purple guy. I'm excited. I really want to know. I really that he's my favorite design on
the King of the Night Spirit. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, okay. Now it's barbecue, but like, because he looks like Dr. Phil. But
so we find out that Gorog had years earlier made a bargain with one of those menacing dark ones that our siblings knew not of. Destroying the Starstone Seal of the Celestials, she released the Windigon from Abyssisia, the frozen planet of the star Ea, where he'd been imprisoned. And that's how he sort of came to Lesser Tana to stalk the northern wastes. The King of the Night Spirit had called this entity from his blighted corpse to the chamber where he now towered over the rest.
False.
The King of the Night Spirit is a different person than Windigon, though, right? Or are they the same people?
Right. Yeah. Because I think, okay, here, hold on. So I think this is the King of the Night Spirit, purple guy. And then this is the Windigon because he kind of looks like a Wendigo. And I figure
right, and he has and he's described later on Windigon. Oh yes, there are 2 different people because on page 647, I want to say, Windigon is described as a withered giant with the eyes of an owl and the antlers of a great elk, which fits the description, right? And the King of the Night Spirit says, "I am the King of the Night Spirit," replied the cruel and crackling voice. His orbs burned savagely. Or maybe the King of the Night Spirit is the withered giant with the eyes of an owl thing.
No.
Because it says beside him rose the royally cloaked and cowled King of the Night Spirit, which would fit your description, Al.
Can we pull up the image?
We're gonna pull it up now. We might as well. I'm just gonna pull it up on my.
I've got a bunch of notes for this part. And it says Morag takes the shape of like an old sorceress she defeated and like an insectoid bottom half, and we'll see that on the image as well. Glasses get filthy so easily.
Okay, I'm just grabbing the image now, but yeah, so the King of the Night, as I do that though, the King of the Night Spirit basically says, servant of the true sovereign of this realm, she who is above all, the Queen of the Night Spirit. And that, of course, would be a reference to Gorog. And then Windigon says, I am the walker on the winds, the white silence Windigon, lord of the demons, first god of the Windigal, and death to the old order. So basically...
So cool, though. Like, those names, like the white silence, like, that's so cool.
No, it's amazing.
That's so awesome.
I love it.
Again, one of the things I love so much about Supernatural Encounters is Joe takes these stories that, like, on their own are kind of like lame. Like, you see the Snow King and you're like, that's the character design we're going with. And then you read the story about him. It's like, oh no, he's really cool. He's really awesome. He's like a character. He's like a real character and not just a funny cartoon.
Okay, I'm pulling it up.
Wow.
Sorry.
Wow.
Tom Selleck jump scare.
Tom Selleck jump scares and you praised. Okay, here's the actual picture. So this is, first of all, one of my favorite art pieces in the entire book. I think we can all agree on that. It's just absolutely absolutely wonderful. And of course that is the first Battle of Endor, and that's why it's one of the covers of the paperback version of that's the backer copy, the paperback version of the backer copy. We can go ahead and name, so there's King Usul is this one right over here with the flaming head and the flaming staff. And then beside him is Borya Kubra, looking much more Chadley than we would have seen him in
his younger years.
This is when he still had the hair.
Yeah.
He still had, like...
And then, of course, we have Queen Maeve, the Flower Queen, beside Borya Kubra, sort of going counterclockwise. And then Queen Autumn, the Leaf Queen. You can see the leaves kind of floating around. Then we have the King of the Night Spirit, and he's using his...
laser eyes.
Yeah, death rays.
The first thing I thought when I got this book was, I got to know who that is. That's the coolest thing ever.
I remember I asked Joe, I emailed him about this cover when I first got the book, and he told me exactly what it is. And I was like, damn, I didn't get any of that. And now I know. Now I know all of it.
This is one of the coolest parts of the book. Then we have, of course, this Ewok figure. I'm just going to name him right now, Tamil Squint, and we're going to come back to him, that being, the Tuckerization of Matt Wilkins. Shout out to Matt.
Yeah.
And
Matt Wilkins on my shelf.
Yeah. On the spine of the book, no less.
Matt
and then
Wilkins
we have Morag looking much prettier than she does in later years, and she's holding, of course, that staff with the Shadow Stone on it, and then Windigon, the immortal god in the flesh. And there are some creatures down here. I wasn't able to identify them. Assume that they're just forces of the monitors, like they're the forces of Tana, as it were. And so there you go. Like, I'm just gonna leave this up for a little while because it's just so wonderful.
It's such a cool art piece. Cool. It's beautiful.
Hello, Harry. Good to see you. I know. Decontextualized, recontextualized even. There you go. Okay. Yeah, you did say that. It adds, I know.
They actually look like Star Wars characters now, and not just like Tom Selleck.
It's like we get this.
It's not like Tom Selleck.
It's like sort of seen through the almost like childlike eyes of the Ewoks. They do seem a little bit more childlike and animated in nature, but of course, then we have this is what's actually going on, and it's wonderful. And it just, I don't know. I just want to live in this universe for a long time. I
definitely want to poster this.
Oh, for sure.
Then we get at the bottom of page 647, the carnage that ensued was so terrible that it was afterwards named in legend as the First Battle of Tana, or as it would later be coined, the First Battle of Endor. So at this point, right, they go and assail Morag's castle, the Monitors and the Protectors of Tana. And then Windigon shows up with the King of the Night Spirit, right? That's his name? Yeah, the King of the Night Spirit. And they have an all-out melee battle, which is described on page 648. I think what we're going to do is read the entire page because it's worth reading in its entirety.
I agree.
Who wants to take the first 2 chapters?
From which page?
648. 648 as the fighting grew.
648.
Yeah.
640 is the
650.
It's the image.
No.
Yeah.
640 is it 640? Is it 650? My
Yeah.
bad.
As the fighting grew, that's
that's the one.
Okay. I can read, so we can all read some.
Yeah. Here I will take the last paragraph, the last aghast part. Maybe Al can take the Leaf Queen, so that's the second last big paragraph, and then Ken can take the middle 2, the with Morag, and then Max, why don't you take the first 2 paragraphs?
As the fighting grew more heated, knocking down fortress walls, Moragaram raised up a more potent magical barrier. Queen Maeve focused, and with her bow managed to furtively rip a tear in it, creating an opening that allowed the Gorfs to hold it ajar while the Protectors took turns entering the sphere. The Protectors seemed harmless at first, laughable even, but their hearts were fierce, and their weapons were imbued with powerful enchantments so that the damage they inflicted surprised the invaders. From his rubicund eyes, the King of the Night Spirit shot forth annihilating rays, and not a few fell beneath that dreadful gaze, while King Borea Kubra countered it with ice magic, and the Sun King unleashed fire upon the Windigon. The Flower Queen lifted her bow to blast the King of the Night Spirit with a powerful and unexpected surge of stored light energy.
So before we get to Ken's part, that's so cool. They're just all out fighting with one another. All right, Ken, continue.
All right. With Moragom's attention on crushing the now teeming Protectors, Queen Autumn directed her wand to awaken the quickened trees that had been raised up to support the enlarged walls. Bows broke through the vassal queen, who had raised her staff upon the shadow stone, had been placed to fire away at the wave of surging furred bodies. Grimacing as they burst into charred atoms. When their numbers thinned out, she turned her attention to the Monitors, who were beginning to wane under the merciless attacks of her lethal allies. But she had not counted on 2 things. The tree obeyed the Leaf Queen and held firm Moragom's arm.
I guess that's what those things are, right? Maybe. I don't know. Anyways, continue.
Yeah. At the same time, a brave Ewok named Tamil Squint scurried up one of the pine's bows, having surmised, after seeing its discharge eradicate several of his friends, that her staff was the primary source of her power. With fierce resolve, the Ewok warrior snatched the Shadow Stone from the talons of her staff and tossed it over to Queen Autumn, just before Moragorom's claws reached out for him, throwing him off balance.
Do you think that he yelled Dangar while he did that?
Yeah.
Dangar.
Chapachawa.
Chapachawa.
He yelled Chapachawa.
All right. Why don't you read the next paragraph, Al?
The Leaf Queen squeezed the powerful stone as she joined her mind with the maddened crystal rider inside it. The contest of wills seemed to last a lifetime, but it was only a few seconds before Kadevra was forced to capitulate, having reforged to obey the one who wielded her. Queen Atom raised the Shadow Stone and sent out a beam of light that exploded through the ceiling, opening a black hole in the skies above the stone table through which the King of the Night Spirit was hurled back into his domain. Reinvigorated, the Monitors focused their attacks on the Windigoon, although the King of the Wind Demons could not be destroyed. He could be incapacitated, as they discovered when they cast the invocation of Double Hat Thok upon him, rendering him into a lifeless statue.
Damn.
Aghast at the loss of her allies in the Shadowstone, Moragaram faltered. Wasting no time, the Leaf Queen, Flower Queen, and Sun King ensorcelled her in a circle of strong branches, buffeting winds, energy currents, and roaring flames, allowing King Boria Kubra to use the Season Scepter to freeze her with a Tanaic version of Somnifer Gelum, just as he had done to her consort before her. With that, all was still again. The protectors had won. All hail Tamil Squint, the Sun King began to chant. The others followed suit. All hail, protectors of Tana. The wounded Tamil started in response. Yubnub.
Woo!
Yeah, Yubnub.
So, yeah, I mean, I think it sums up the magic of Supernatural Encounters, how it rebukes the dismissal of material like the Ewoks or the old Marvel comics is too silly or whatever, and it just basically rationalizes it in a really kind of like adult way. I think that's wonderful. I love
it makes
this
me
part.
really appreciate it.
This stuff is so awesome.
I love the fact
inspired
that
me to go watch the cartoon.
An Ewok basically turns the tide and helps win the first battle of Endor, right? Like that's just so perfect.
Yeah, just like
sorry.
Just like in the later Battle of Endor that we know, the Ewoks did turn the tide. And everyone underestimates the little guys. And then they, and also like the one thing I really loved about them fighting is like that they used nature against these dark forces. Like Queen Autumn is just like using the trees and everything. And like they have like a home field advantage, they know like the Ewoks and the seasonal deities, like they know this world better than anyone.
That's right.
Something that's always annoyed me about criticism of Return of the Jedi. Now you can have whatever problems with
we all agree. We all agreed off stream that we love the Ewoks. Continue.
Yeah.
Right
now. No. Something. The Empire got defeated by teddy bears. When you go back and you watch the movie, until Chewbacca gains control of an ATST, they're losing that battle. They're trying different tactics, but they're losing. It's because they can adapt, because they know their environment, and because Chewbacca like ambushes a bunch of the ATSTs. Are they able to win? They win through ingenuity, and I love that. I love that about SE. I love that about Return of the Jedi. I love that
they win through surprise.
Yeah, they do.
I will say, since I was a child, up until now, I've always loved the Ewoks. I'm always very sympathetic to these like kooky, kind of ridiculed Star Wars races like Gungans and Ewoks and stuff like that. I don't know why. I just do. I've always loved the Ewoks. My daughter is like Princess Nisa is like one of her favorite characters of all time. I just think they're incredibly great, and I think it's just so magical that Tamil Squint wins the day essentially, right?
Yeah, and he just Yubnub. He says
Yubnub.
Love it.
Yubnub. Ewoks are what got my friends into Star Wars. So if anything, they're my favorites.
Ewoks are fantastic.
They're great.
We were told on page 651 that Swint he was wounded, but he would go on to heal. And they basically 7 races undertook the spell of the 7 oaths. They would basically hold fast. It's like a mutual defense pact between 7 races. So it's Dulox, Yuzum, Gariel, Gorfs, Dagon, Quarks, and Ewoks.
And then the Dulox are like pains in the butt.
I know. But like usually good naturedly pain in the butt, right? They're not like, we want to destroy the planet. They just want to get rid of those pesky Ewoks, right?
Yeah.
And then we can blame them, even though we just went on about how much we love Ewoks.
Sorry, the Yuzum. I had to bring up the Yuzum because of a certain Yuzum in Jabba's palace who has a very good musical cue. Right?
Are you?
Yeah, I know. We've only done 2 chapters today, Harry, and we're already approaching the 3-hour mark. It's just it's so dense.
It's so dense.
So dense.
Yeah, that's so funny.
But
a certain Yuzum.
There's a certain like the Yuzum are mentioned, and we all know of the most famous Yuzum in Jabba's palace, Zhao Yaza, right?
Why don't you give us your Joe Yowza impression,
Yeah.
Al?
I'll tell you time to me. Al.
Wang chuki chiki cha cha chuki chiki cha cha cha. I can't
I love
scream
it.
as loud as I normally can. There are people above me.
That's okay.
I want there to be like someone just makes edits of all like the best moments from all of our streams just compiled. It's like all the funny moments because like there would be so many.
Oh.
Joe Yowza.
Joe Yowza.
Yeah, he is. That's my boy.
On page 651, we're also told that now, of course, the Shadow Stone is in the possession of the Indur ruling council, so Gorog no longer has access to it.
Good.
It says, utilizing their healing properties upon her, they awoke an aspect of Cadaver's original nature. Something in the nature of the Crystal Rider had been altered while under the power of the Night Queen. And though she would always be her loyal servant, through her, they confirmed their fears that Thargoragrat would one day come to exact vengeance and claim the world as her own. And then this last part. The hour had come to enact the final part of the plan to protect their world. The Shadow Stone would become home to their spirits, and it was hoped that their presence might further heal Cadaver's shattered psyche. The Sun King would enable this process. Upon the Stone of Shadow, the spirits of the Indur ruling council were transferred, and half of the jewel at that moment shone as bright as Iblium before the other monitors aided the transition, allowing it to settle to a cool yellow. Henceforth, the jewel became known as the Sunstar Shadowstone. And that's how we get that lore from the Ewoks.
It looks really cool in the cartoon, for the record. It looks really nice with the orange and the
Jedi
purple.
English.
Oh,
Wow.
That's really cool. That's
wow.
awesome. Fact.
I love Yub Nub, by the way. It's it's the hill that I die on in Star Wars.
I kind of prefer it to Victory.
No, wait,
Victory
wait.
Celebration.
Victory
Celebration is a better
better.
song. No, Victory Celebration is a better song.
Maxine and I have had many discussions about
Yub Nub is a better conclusion because that's like focused. It's focused on what's going on. I think
we agree that also, first of all, like Morag, time has not been kind to you.
Can we pull up a picture of Morag?
We will. But first I'm gonna pull up a picture of Morag too.
Victory Celebration. I just think it's
it's a great song. I love the song.
In the context of the entire saga ending.
It's just, there's a sense of finality to Victory Celebration.
Exactly.
That you don't get with Yub Nub.
But there's also a like almost a melancholic, bittersweet aspect to it, where it's because Anakin just died, but he saved the galaxy, and it's like it's over. It's over. The fighting's done now. So it's like
over until you read the.
Yeah,
right.
But I think
also,
it's a perfect end to the 6 movies.
That's interesting. I still prefer Yub Nub. Hello, Lance. Welcome.
Hi.
Well, you missed all the Yor lore that we talked about at the beginning of the stream. So go back and watch the first 15 minutes.
You also missed the Tom Selleck jump scares and the vibing of the Rock Wizard.
Wait, hold on. I'm going to share.
And Honey Mustard Batman.
Yeah, there was a lot.
This was a fantastic stream.
Okay, I'm going to share a picture of the Sunstar Shadowstone. Yeah, well,
it looks. I think it looks really nice with the orange and the purple contrasting. I mean, it's very simple, but it.
Oh no, not another one!
Oh,
the Tom Selleck jump scare.
Tom Selleck and his mustache.
He's staring into my soul.
He's just ooh.
The Tom Selleck
man.
jump.
Wow. I need.
Oh my.
So, Marcel, you've seen the cartoon episode with all the seasoned characters, right?
Yes.
Again, to like add on to as he makes us appreciate those older cartoons or whatnot, the Sun King is the most ridiculous character like ever.
What do they look
He's like Here, I'll bring it up. He's like a surfer guy. He's like a surfer dude.
Because
we
saw the
that's totally radical, bro.
Okay, I'm gonna share an actual picture of the Sunstar Shadowstone now.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Oh my god, Marcel.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, that's the sun. Whoa, it went away too fast. What happened to it?
Sorry. Hold on. Let me bring it back. Oh, there it is. There we go.
Yes, he definitely is.
There we go. You see this Hawaiian shirt?
Oh my god!
I love this guy. Like, this is a great character. Like, he got the thing. He's totally chill.
If I was a seasonal demigod and I had just fought an entire battle, I totally would devolve into that as well. Just be like, hey man, it's all good. The dude abides. All right, here's an actual picture of the Sunstar Shadowstone. Take 3. So you can see like one part is dark and the other part's light, right?
It's like a jelly donut.
Looks very pretty.
Like a jelly donut. Perfectly said, Kenneth.
And
can we say that the Sun King is also vibing? He's absolutely vibing.
Yeah, here's Morag. Right.
Ooh, there's Morag.
Yeah. Time has not been kind.
You can see where the Shadowstone went too, because at the top of her staff. Like, I know that wasn't intended at the time, but like now, if you look at the book, with Tamil, he's grabbing for the shadows, the Sun Star, I guess it would be at the time, or the Shadowstone.
Right.
Can we see what the Flower Queen and the Leaf Queen look like?
I got the Leaf Queen ready.
Okay.
I want to see
hit us.
Hit us with the Queen.
There we go. All right.
Yeah, that tracks.
She actually has like a genuinely really good design. I think she actually looks really nice.
Are you suggesting that the other two do not?
Well, I'm saying that those two are kind of.
Must I share another Tom Selleck picture? Yeah, there's tons of Ewok lore, man. You missed it.
It's so good.
And there's still more yet to come.
Oh, I can't wait.
So,
and then
is there one of the Flower
Queen?
So essentially, Lance, Matt Wilkins' Ewok Tuckerization Tamil Squint stole the Shadowstone from Morag and saved the day.
What a Chad!
Indeed. Oh,
this looks like the Chiquita banana.
Yeah. Oh my god.
She's like, I forget. What was she? Because the Flower Queen is like the reason, or the Leaf Queen is like the reasonable one. She's like the adult in the room or whatever.
Yeah.
Snow King is under a spell. Sun King is like a surfer dude. I forget what her deal is. I think that she's just worried about her appearance because it's not spring. I don't know. She's not. She's barely in the.
Looks like Peely, Max.
You did not just bring Fortnite into
I did.
Superliterary.
Fortnite into.
Oh my god. But I was gonna say she looks like peeled string cheese. Like, you know, when you peel like string cheese.
Yeah. Peely.
I can't believe you literally just brought Fortnite onto Superliterary Encounters.
How dare you? It's fine.
No, I mean Fortnite's
Fortnite's
great.
Look, we have some Fortnite lore here to keep us going.
Rip.
Oh damn! Your internet.
You're missing out.
I wanted to throw this back up here, but yeah, I mean, I think we've come to the end essentially of all the material that we were here to discuss, and I want to kind of end close to the 3-hour mark, which is a vast improvement over our last 2 streams.
Oh yes.
But bear in mind we've only discussed 2 chapters, so you know. Hey. But in any event, I wanted to cap off by talking about sort of like any final thoughts we might have. I really, what was your favorite part of these 2 books, right? I would probably say the Battle of Endor.
Oh, it's gotta be.
Yeah. Okay. Are we all in agreement? Yeah.
Yeah.
It got me interested in the Ewok cartoon, which I've been hesitant about for so long.
This chapter
it looked really silly.
Yeah.
But it made me go.
Make me read the Ewok maybe watch the Ewoks cartoon. Yeah, I'm gonna read the Ewoks.
Read the Ewok comics.
I'm gonna read the cartoon.
Yeah, for me, it was definitely this chapter as well. Chapter 62 is so good, and this art is just spectacular. And I love that I have like the cover, like, I have that on my book. Like, I remember like when everyone was getting their copies and they're like, oh, they got the cool Typha Gem cover and whatnot. But I only said that because I didn't understand what this was. And now that I do, like, I have like a brand new appreciation for this beautiful cover.
Yeah.
So,
it really is, I think, one of the most epic battles in the book, right? We can talk about Typha Gem fighting Horus, and we can talk about
the battle on Coruscant.
Right? With the 13 battalions. But I think this one was
this is really good.
Because this was like, the Battle of Coruscant with the what do they call the Rosm or like that was epic.
It's more grander in scale, but the Battle of Endor feels more personable.
More personal, right? Against literal gods.
And it's doing more work too, because like, making the battle on Coruscant cool. That's pretty easy. Coruscant's a sick place. Yeah. They got all these monsters and stuff. These are like cartoons from 1986 that, out of context, even in context, are like pretty silly. Yeah. So to make them,
how dare you? But yes. What's that? Like he's out of line, but he's not wrong.
He's out of line, but he's right.
He's out of line, but he's right.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm just saying. Listen, if I had to pick my top 100 characters in Star Wars, I don't know if Tom Selleck is making it on there. Maybe Leaf Queen. Probably Leaf Queen. But Tom Selleck, I don't know.
What about Tamil Squint though?
Oh, number one. Best character ever. He's replaced Luke, which it was gonna happen.
And the Rock Wizard, he's vibing.
No, he's number 2, and 3 is the 16 billion Scandits coming out.
Why does it keep why does it keep increasing in number? Like it's 16 billion
Scandit fight.
Because he keeps winning.
He keeps winning more. Spend more.
Marcel, just imagine like the 100-man fight in Berserk, but instead he's fighting Scandits.
This is getting out of hand.
Now
there are 2 of them.
Now there are 2.
All right. So, any final thoughts before we end this stream?
Yeah. I mean, book 6 starts off with a hell of a bang and like so much lore already, and we are literally like scratching the surface of book 6. So
for sure.
This stuff was super cool, and like there's just so much more awesome stuff to come with book 6.
Absolutely. So thank you all for joining us, and we hope that you continue with us on our journey through Supernatural Encounters. We will be back, I think, probably next week to discuss a few more chapters and delve our way further into book 6, I should say, as Arhul and Q9 delved further into the dark recesses of Illithurian. We shall be back here. Until next time, though, I'd like to thank my co-hosts, Ken, Al, Max, Brennan, and Alex for joining us earlier. Thank you again, Harry and Lance, and for everyone else who joined us in the comments, Darth Sidious, Dr. Crater. And with that, we will get our chewbies out of here and see you next time.
Bye.
Yub nub.
Yub nub.
Yub nub.